Chapter 622. Roar. The boss let out a low roar. It was as if it could not accept the fact that it was injured by a normal punch. It grabbed its battle axe and charged forward furiously. His heavy and quick footsteps reverberated throughout the entire room. Even though his body was as thick as a water bucket, his movements were incomparably swift. His footsteps were as frequent as raindrops, and as his speed increased, they filled the entire room. Wu Yan lowered his head and looked at his left hand. He did not even look at the boss that was charging at him. His heart was filled with excitement as he clenched his fist tightly. He looked up and saw that the boss was already 1 meter away from him. The sword in his hand flashed and the Heaven Gazer let out a cry that shook the air. Facing the angry roar of the boss, the Heaven Gazer moved forward like a phantom. Instead of retreating, the Heaven Gazer moved forward to meet the boss that was flying towards him. The boss paused for a moment and then swung its battle axe without hesitation. Its slender shadow swept across the room swiftly and violently, and with a faint whistling sound, it crashed into Wu Yan's head. It was very vicious. However, even though the boss' attack speed was astonishing, Wu Yan's attack speed was much faster than even the future Flash Asuna's. Therefore, when the boss attacked, both the Heaven Gazer and the boss hit each other's bodies at almost the same time. Bang! Bang! The sound of the violent collision shook everyone's hearts and reverberated throughout the room. Over and over again, it struck the players' eardrums. Looking at the two disproportionate figures being pushed back at the same time, they were dumbfounded. They could no longer make any other reaction. They even forgot about the siege strategy they had discussed in advance and stood stupidly on the spot. The powerful recoil caused both Wu Yan and the boss to retreat. At the same time, their HP plummeted. However, whether it was Wu Yan or the boss, both of them did not care about their HP at all. After they landed on the ground, their bodies fiercely bent, and then with an even more shocking and violent momentum, they turned into arrows that left the bowstring and collided with each other again. Boom! An even more intense collision sound assaulted their eardrums. The players gasped and their expressions changed. While they were shocked, they could not help but feel their blood boiling. He's so strong. Kirito, Asuna, and Diavel watched as Wu Yan fought the boss head-on. His HP was still below the green line. One can only imagine how they felt. No matter if it was a player or a monster, if they wanted their HP bar to remain green, they would need to have at least half of their HP remaining. As long as their HP dropped below half of their HP bar would turn yellow. If their HP dropped below 1/10 of their HP bar would turn red. However, compared to monsters, the difference between a player's HP and a monster's HP was not small. The common characteristic of monsters was that they had more HP than players. At the very least, monsters of the same level, or even 10 levels lower, were like this. On the other hand, Wu Yan's HP bar was still green even after exchanging blows with the boss. It was obvious how strong his defense was. Among the players here, even the one with the highest defense wouldn't be able to maintain green HP after exchanging blows with the boss. His equipment must be very high level. Diavel said with a hint of envy. Kirito and Asuna didn't say anything, they just stared at the two figures. The gatekeeper boss relied on its high HP, decent defense, and high attack power to subdue the enemy. However, Wu Yan isn't too bad himself. His HP isn't as high as the gatekeeper boss, but after a month of crazily grinding monsters, his equipment has reached an insane level. His defense is at least twice as high as the gatekeeper boss. Every time he takes a hit, the damage he takes is very small. This is the best way to ensure his own safety. Heaven Gazer is definitely a super artifact at this stage of the game. Although it's not that great of a skill, it's still able to hold its own against the boss. And it's the most brutal head-on clash. Wu Yan hasn't even used his infinite armory yet. In just a short exchange of blows, the atmosphere in the room was so fierce that it felt like a life and death battle could be decided at any moment. One man and one monster's ferocious fighting style made the spectators tremble in fear, but they also admired it. After the initial shock, the players were completely immersed in the beast-like fighting style of both sides. This kind of direct collision was the most vivid and the easiest to be influenced by. After a few head-on clashes, the players' faces were flushed red. They couldn't wait to enter the battlefield and engage in a hot-blooded battle. The only one who had a different feeling was Kibu. Everyone's face was flushed red, but his face was pale. When he recalled the scene where he forced Kibu to fight yesterday, he had the urge to pee his pants. He regretted provoking such a monster. But on the battlefield, the situation suddenly changed. After more than a dozen head-on clashes, Wu Yan and the boss HP dropped to red at the same time. Seeing this scene, Kirito and Diabelle's expression froze. Because the first floor's boss will change its weapon and attack mode after its HP drops to red. Roar. The boss roared angrily and threw the battle axe and shield in his hands at the same time. Then, the boss pulled out a katana that looked like a hatchet from his waist. What? Katana? Kirito and Diabelle exclaimed in shock. Not a scimitar? Obviously, the settings of the final boss had been changed. Unlike Kirito and Diabelle, Wu Yan wasn't surprised when he saw the boss changed its weapon to a katana. Instead, he was happy. He leaped over the boss and rushed toward it. Such a long weapon change, isn't that suicidal? Heaven Gazer ferociously cut into the boss's underarm and stuck there. Wu Yan's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and with a twist of his body, Heaven Gazer immediately sent the boss flying. Wu Yan finally got serious. 7 stars. His eyes turned cold, and Heaven Gazer flashed a dazzling blue light in front of everyone. Noticing the blue light from Wu Yan's sword, the boss seemed to be frightened and uneasy. He roared and was about to dive down. Unfortunately, it was too late. Like a flash of lightning, his robes fluttered in the wind as he appeared at the boss's landing spot like a specter. He swung Heaven Gazer at the boss with a heavy blow. Clang! As if it was protected by a heavy armor, the boss's body trembled slightly, and his HP started to drop. Wu Yan left a blue light spot on the ground, and the second strike of Heaven Gazer landed on the boss's body. The 2 consecutive heavy blows and the immense power caused the boss to uncontrollably stagger backward. Before it could regain its balance, another bang rang out. The boss retreated again and again as if it had been struck by lightning. At this time, the 4th star-like blue light lit up, and the boss's body was once again lifted high into the air. The magnificent sword slash landed on the boss like a whirlwind. The boss was sent flying and its HP dropped again. But before it could fly 3 meters, Wu Yan had already closed in on it like a shadow and stomped on the boss's chest. Dong! Its huge body immediately flew towards the ground and landed on the ground like a cannonball, stirring up a cloud of dust. The Heaven Gazer's sword had already pierced through the boss's forehead as it stared at the boss with its crimson eyes. The boss's HP bar dropped to the bottom. Pa! A clear cracking sound rang out, and the boss's head was split in half. Then, its huge body turned into pieces and scattered all over the place. The first floor's boss. Killed. Chapter 623. 7 stars. To be precise, it's not a skill from SAO. It's something Wu Yan came up with on the spur of the moment during his month-long grinding spree. As we all know, SAO's skills are much more powerful than normal attacks. If a monster is attacked with normal attacks, it will take at least 10 hits to kill it. If it's a skill, 1 hit is more than enough to kill it. Wu Yan noticed a long time ago that when a player uses a skill, the skill light on the player's weapon will greatly increase the player's attack power before the skill is released. Then, the system will control the player's body and make the skill hit the target. One day in a month, Wu Yan suddenly thought of something. What if he cancelled the skill when the light of the skill flashed and then used it to link his own moves? What would happen then? Thus, 7 stars was born. After cancelling the skill, the player will be able to attack 7 times in a row with the remaining power of the skill light and greatly increased attack power. This skill's attack power is completely above all of Wu Yan's skills. It's unparalleled, and the power of the skill will increase according to the intensity of the skill's cancellation. Therefore, 7 stars is the product of the combination of Infinite Armory and SAO. Of course, without a peerless skill like Infinite Armaments, who would be able to resist the system's judgment and make the skill follow the user's movements when they cast a skill in SAO? Even if it's a fake body, it's still Wu Yan's body. With Infinite Armory, which combines mind, skill, and body, nothing can control Wu Yan's body. Of course, Wu Yan can control his body after casting the skill. Of course, the creation of 7 stars is just an interlude. Wu Yan knows that after the original main character Kirito acquired the unique skill Dual Sword Flow, he could unleash a combo of 50 attacks in a row. Compared to 7 stars, that's a lot stronger. However, at that time, it was already the later stage of SAO. At least, 7 stars is the most powerful skill among all the skills in SAO's history. Following the death of the boss, the announcement that they had cleared the stage was hung high up in the sky. Everyone saw it. Only now did the 30 to 40 players snap out of their daze and come back to their senses. We cleared the game. We really cleared the game. This is great. Looking at the announcement hanging in the air, the players looked at each other in dismay. Shortly after, their expressions slowly changed. Thunderous cheers resounded throughout the room. They either raised their hands high to express their joy, or put their arms around each other's shoulders and rubbed the bodies of the people around them in ecstasy. The joyous atmosphere spread among the crowd. Smiles had become the only expression on everyone's faces at this moment. We cleared the first floor. Diavel exhaled and looked at Wu Yan, who was bathed in the fragments of the boss. His eyes flashed with a touch of jealousy. Originally, Diavel planned to deal the final blow when the boss was about to die. Because only Diavel and Kirito knew that the player who kills the boss will get extra rare items, so naturally, Diavel wanted to deal the final blow. Diavel didn't expect the person in front of him to ruin his plan. He single-handedly killed the boss and actually succeeded. Who would have thought that the boss would be single-handedly killed by someone? Even during the closed beta, no one was able to single-handedly kill the boss. But after thinking about it for a while, Diabel felt relieved. Although it's a pity to lose a rare item, he also saw that the boss didn't use a curved sword at the end, but a katana instead. It's completely different from the one in the closed beta. If he didn't know about this, he wouldn't have rushed to the boss. Thinking of this, the trace of jealousy in Diavel's heart disappeared. Instead, it turned into gratitude. No matter what, the person in front of him gave all the players hope, telling them that this game can be cleared. He believed that after the news of clearing the first floor spread out, the rest of the game will be much easier. That guy, he's really strong. Kirito's eyes lit up as he stared at Wu Yan. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Is he really a beta tester? Such a strong beta tester, why didn't I hear about him during the closed beta? Or he's not a beta tester at all. Kirito muttered while looking at Wu Yan. If that's the case, then this person is really scary. Asuna, who was next to Kirito, stared at the figure in front of her. Her face was hidden under the cloak, her eyes were filled with complicated emotions. She recalled what Kirito said last night when she told him that he couldn't single-handedly kill the boss. Asuna clenched her fists tightly. Is it possible? Wu Yan didn't know that because of his performance, there are a lot of people who have mixed feelings. He opened up his system interface and looked at the overcoat he got from killing the boss. He couldn't help but sigh and grumble in a dissatisfied tone. Although the name is good, it's still not as good as the one I'm wearing. Even if I change it for the name, I'll have to change it when I level up the one I'm wearing. It's not that important. Equipment can also be upgraded, as long as the relevant life professions or NPCs are willing to do the work. Then even the decorative coat on Wu Yan's body could be upgraded into a godly equipment if they are willing to spend the money. Right now, the profession players are still developing, so upgrading their equipment will have to wait. Now that the first floor is cleared, there should be a lot of players who can upgrade their equipment. When the time comes, Wu Yan will have to change the coat he got from the boss. After all, in terms of appearance, Wu Yan's coat looks better, so he'll need to upgrade his coat when he levels up. In that case, the coat he got from the boss is really not that important to Wu Yan. I wonder if Diabel would still be grateful to Wu Yan if he knew that the rare equipment he coveted for so long is like this to Wu Yan. Shaking his head, Wu Yan scanned his surroundings before his gaze landed on a stone door. That's the path to the second floor. Ignoring the players around him, Wu Yan walked towards the stone door. Seeing this, the other players stopped cheering. Kirito and Diabel looked at Wu Yan again. Asuna panicked. Seeing that Wu Yan was about to enter the portal, Asuna ran towards Wu Yan without hesitation. Wait, a familiar voice came from behind. Hearing the messy footsteps, Wu Yan smiled and turned around. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Asuna running towards him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Did I get lucky in love? Otherwise, why would Asuna keep coming to me? Is there anything else? Asuna looked up at Wu Yan and stared straight into his wine-colored eyes. Can you tell me your name? This sentence again, Wu Yan smiled and turned around. My name is Wu Yan. Wu Yan threw a small notebook into Asuna's hand. This is a recipe. Wu Yan smiled. As a girl, you should eat better. Wu Yan didn't stay any longer. He turned around and walked into the portal, leaving behind only one sentence. If a guild invites you in the future, you should join them. After all, you're not like me. Wait, before she could finish her sentence, Wu Yan's figure disappeared. Asuna looked at the door in a daze while holding the recipe in her hand. Wu Yan. Chapter 624. After stepping on the portal, Soren's vision blurred for a second, and the scenery around him changed completely. The very distinct smell of grass entered his nostrils, causing him to choke quite a bit. He coughed a few times before feeling better. However, his head is still a bit dizzy. He's not sure if it's because of the teleportation or because of the smell of grass. Lifting his head, he weighed the heaven gazer on his back. He looked around and saw a very spacious plaza. It's much bigger than the central plaza on the first floor of Talbana. The plaza is surrounded by very conspicuous Western-style buildings. Vaguely, one figure after another walked by, making the plaza feel a little less deserted. Wu Yan noticed that there was a fountain behind him. The fountain was round, and there was an iron pillar in the middle of the fountain that looked like a magic staff. It's much bigger than a magic staff, and it's taller than Wu Yan himself. The smell of grass that stimulated Wu Yan's sense of smell came from this iron pillar. Wu Yan looked at the magic staff. Sao is a world of swords and swords. There's no magic or chi in this world, only swords and swords. Why is a magic staff standing here? Is it waiting for people to criticize it? Maybe it's not a magic staff at all? Shaking his head to get rid of these tangled thoughts, he looked around before opening the system interface and pulling out the map. There's no map of the labyrinth area in Sao. Players can only explore the labyrinth area on their own and record it in the system. This way, they won't have to wander around like a headless fly the next time they enter the labyrinth area. Other than the labyrinth area, the maps of towns, wilderness, monster areas, and other places were automatically marked in the player's map. Of course, depending on the practicality and importance of these areas, there were differences in the details of the maps. For places like the wilderness and monster areas, at most, a rough location was recorded so that the players would not get lost. On the other hand, the maps of towns were undoubtedly the most detailed. From the map, Wu Yan easily found the inns in the town. He walked towards the nearest one without saying a word. Now that the first floor has been cleared, by the time the players received the news, it would be about time for them to reach the second floor. Wu Yan didn't want to interact with a large amount of people. After all, only he himself knows how attracting bees and butterflies he is. After confirming the direction, Wu Yan closed the map interface, opened his friends list, and sent a message to Sachi. I'm already on the second floor. When you arrive, go to the hotel closest to the teleportation point and find me. He received Sachi's reply after he sent it out. Wu Yan was a bit surprised by the content of the reply. Brother. You finally contacted me. I thought you were busy on the second floor, so I didn't dare to send you a message. You have no idea, but you're famous now. Famous? Wu Yan blinked a few times to make sure he didn't misread the message. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It seems like I'm already very famous, a beta tester and a soldier. These two identities seem to have made my reputation very famous. In the past month, people recognized me wherever I went. Now, there should be no player who doesn't know me, right? Why did she say that I'm famous? But Sachi's reply was beyond Wu Yan's expectation. I'm not talking about that. Brother, your performance in the first floor's dungeon boss has spread throughout the entire first floor. You killed the dungeon boss's guard in one hit, defended the dungeon boss, and even killed the dungeon boss in a one-on-one duel. There's no player who doesn't know about this. Now, whether it's the players who stayed in the town of beginnings waiting for rescue, the players who are trying to strengthen themselves, or even the life class players, everyone regards you as their idol. It's not hard to see how excited Sachi was when she wrote this email. Wu Yan choked on his words. Idol? I don't think so. Oni-san, it seems like you haven't realized the meaning of what you're doing. Sachi said in the email. Originally, most of the players in SAO didn't have much hope in clearing this death game. Many of the strong players just lived their lives day by day. They didn't plan to clear this game at all. But now, it's different. Brother, your one-on-one duel with the dungeon boss has made those players who didn't have any hope in clearing this game. Naturally, brother, you became the idol who brought hope to the players. I didn't know it had such an effect. Wu Yan's jaw dropped, he even typed a few wrong words in his replies. Don't those players hate beta testers? They always think that I'm a beta tester, they don't think I'm their idol, right? People hate beta testers because beta testers monopolize all the information and resources, leaving other players behind. That's why they hate beta testers. Sachi explained patiently, but now, those players think that you are a hero who has the potential to clear the game and save them all. The players who went with you to raid the boss have already released the information about the boss. It's been less than half an hour since the information was released. However, none of the players have dared to claim that they can solo the boss. Right now, the players are starting to think that you're the strongest player in the game, big brother. A hero who can save everyone. Wu Yan pursed his lips and rolled his eyes. Forget about being a hero. Although my goal is to clear the 100th floor, I'm not that great to save everyone. As for being the strongest player, that's what I've always thought. Sachi didn't reply to him after he sent that sentence. She didn't reply until a long time later. Big brother, you're amazing, Wu Yan chuckled when he saw that sentence. He accepted Sachi's praise and started chatting with her. Wu Yan didn't know if it's because of him or not, but he could see the excitement in Sachi's voice. There's even a hint of joy in her voice which made Wu Yan very happy. He remembered that when they first met, Sachi was still a timid little girl who would be stunned when he touched her head. Now, after a month of getting along with him, although the number of times they met was very few, the number of times they exchanged emails was quite a lot. Wu Yan can clearly feel that Sachi's personality is slowly changing. She's no longer as timid as before. She's no longer afraid of her life in SAO, she's gradually becoming more cheerful. Part of it is because she recognized him as her big brother and found a sense of security, but more importantly, it's because of Cheyenne. Aside from Sachi, there were no other girls in the moonlit Black Cats. As the only female in the group, no matter how good Sachi's relationship with Suda and the others was, she would still have some misgivings, so she hid her worries in her heart. However, with Cheyenne's addition, Sachi found someone she could confide in. After having a sense of security and someone to rely on, coupled with Cheyenne's lively and cheerful personality, Sachi was able to confide in Cheyenne. Under such circumstances, Sachi's heart naturally wasn't as dark as it was when they first met. Suda once said that although Sachi is a little timid in the real world, she's still quite gentle. If it wasn't for the pressure of the death game, Sachi wouldn't be like that. Now, Sachi is gradually returning to her original personality. He should really thank the girl who told Wu Yan to let her follow him. As for Wu Yan, he's more of a mental support. Chapter 625. Aincrad, second floor. Silhouettes kept appearing and disappearing at the side of a fountain, and they continued to spread out in groups. Every person who appeared here had a face full of curiosity and scrutinizing. They looked around as if they had just come out of a prison. They were full of hope for the future, but at the same time, they felt unnatural in this unfamiliar environment. Basically, the people who appeared here were fully armed. They wore heavy armor and held weapons in their hands. They looked like warriors who were out on an adventure. However, there were a lot of them. Not long after, the town, which originally only had NPCs, had a lot of NPC life. It's only natural. Anyone who wants to survive on their own and doesn't want to rot in the first floor will choose to come to the second floor. That includes lifestyle players. Aincrad has 100 floors. Every floor has countless monsters and opportunities. The higher the floor, the higher the level of the monsters, the greater the opportunities. Even quest rewards, items, and materials would increase with each floor. Most of the items with miraculous effects could only be found in the higher floors of Aincrad. That's why it's necessary to get to the higher floors if you want to strengthen yourself. The same goes for lifestyle players as well. However, among these people, there were also some who only came here to take a look and follow the footsteps of others. They were not left behind because of their level. These people had some ties or foundations in the first level. In the end, the players who stayed on the second level should be around 60% to 70%. Half a day had passed since the first floor's boss was killed and the first floor was cleared. Many powerful teams and guilds had already arrived on the second floor. They were thinking of ways to gather information on the second floor, such as the locations of quest NPCs, the levels and characteristics of wild monsters, the location and strength of bosses, and so on. As long as they gathered enough information, they would be able to face the wild monsters of the second floor head-on. As a result, the town on the second floor was filled with people. Every player was looking for shops on the streets, collecting new items, upgrading their equipment and weapons, or conversing with NPCs in an attempt to obtain information or quests. The entire town was bustling with noise and excitement, while the players are preparing for their future exploration. Wu Yan is leisurely drinking in a tavern. Sigh. Wu Yan finished his drink and looked at the empty bottle. He couldn't help but sigh. It's a lot better than the first floor, but at least the first floor is free. This place costs 20 COR per bottle. Those who aren't rich don't dare to waste their money here. This is the opinion of someone who's worth at least $1 million. Wu Yan tapped on the table and a menu appeared in front of him. After ordering another bottle, Wu Yan closed the menu. Although the second floor tavern's menu is much better than the first floor's, the dishes are definitely not as good as his own. Wu Yan would rather drink than eat with his own stomach. Time slowly passed as Wu Yan continued to pour and drink. Wu Yan wasn't impatient at all and continued to pour until a 6-man party appeared at the entrance of the tavern. The moonlit black cats entered the tavern and quickly noticed Wu Yan in plain clothes. Shireen immediately shouted and ran towards Wu Yan. "We're coming." Wu Yan appeared in front of Cheyenne in an instant and he covered her mouth to stop her from saying anything else. "I changed into plain clothes so that no one would know who I am. Now that you're shouting, I can't rest in peace." Wu Yan covered Cheyenne's mouth in a death grip, causing her to choke and she almost fainted. After clearing the first floor's boss, Wu Yan's cool black coat and heaven gazer sword had become a symbol of his identity. Even his name has been exposed. If Shireen calls out Wu Yan's name, then Wu Yan will probably be drowned by the players in the tavern. The moonlit black cats originally wanted to greet Wu Yan, but when they heard Shireen's name, they immediately swallowed their words. Keita and the other 3 couldn't catch their breath and patted their chest. Sachi was the only one who didn't have any scruples. "Big brother." Sachi stepped forward and grabbed Wu Yan's hand that was covering Shireen's mouth. She smiled awkwardly and said, "Can you let go now?" "Shireen-chan is dying." Wu Yan glanced at Shireen who was rolling her eyes and quickly let go. At least he didn't let the first and last player in SAO die from suffocation. "Wu, I think I saw a man in white with wings. Shireen leaned on Sachi and gasped for breath. She sobbed and said, Sachi, did you see that? Sachi. Ahahaha. Sachi laughed awkwardly. Thank goodness I didn't see it, you're really something. Keita walked up to Wu Yan and patted him on the shoulder. He said excitedly, I know you're good, but I didn't expect you to be this good. When I first heard about it, I thought it was just a rumor. It's not as hard as you think. Wu Yan gestured for the moonlit black cats to sit down. He smiled and said, originally, with the current level of the players, they could have cleared the first floor's boss a long time ago. The reason why it took a month was because many players didn't feel the hope of clearing the first floor. They didn't give it their all, that's why the boss's room wasn't discovered. Wu Yan took a sip of his liquor. After the boss room was discovered, the first floor was destined to be conquered. My appearance was only to prevent the players who were planning to take down the boss room from suffering any casualties. Suda and the others pondered Wu Yan's words. Sachi quickly interjected. But Oniai-chan, you're really something. Other players would have to form a lot of parties if they want to raid the boss, nah. Shireen rolled her eyes and giggled as she leaned on Wu Yan's ear. She said sneakily, are you hiding something? Like the boss's Achilles heel or something that increases attack power. Like hell you are. Wu Yan jokingly scolded him. I'm the real deal. Really? Shireen didn't say anything else. She looked into Wu Yan's eyes with suspicion. Wu Yan's mouth twitched and he sighed. Back then, didn't a certain someone say, please let me follow you, because he thought I was very strong? Shireen's face turned red and she stuttered, I can't help it, oh. Wu Yan purposely dragged out his words. Shireen's face turned even redder and she didn't dare to say anything else. Suda helplessly shook his head. He looked at Wu Yan. What do you plan to do next? What's next? Wu Yan stopped smiling and he lowered his head in contemplation. Probably the same as before. Train hard and accept a few missions. Keita nodded as expected. Sachi wanted to say something but she hesitated. She mustered up her courage and said, if it's a mission, I have one. Everyone present was taken aback and looked at Sachi in surprise. Mission? Cheyenne hugged Sachi tightly and asked, what's the mission? Why didn't we know you received a mission? I just received it. Sachi shrunk her head and said embarrassedly, when I came here, I accidentally clicked on an NPC. Then, out of nowhere, I received a teleportation crystal, accidentally, clicked on. Wu Yan, Shireen, and Keita were speechless. Chapter 626. Right now, almost all the players were looking for quests on the second floor. Because there were quests, there were also rewards. Some quests were even unique. Once completed, you would not be able to receive any more quests. Similarly, these unique quests were also the quests with the most generous rewards. However, while the players are wandering the streets, hoping to get lucky and pick up a quest, there's someone who can pick up a quest while walking around. Wu Yan and the others didn't know what to say when they saw Sachi's embarrassed expression. A teleportation crystal? Shireen, on the other hand, was interested in the crystal. Where's the teleportation crystal? I don't know. Sachi took out the teleportation crystal from her inventory in a daze. There's no indication of where it's from. Everyone looked at the crystal in Sachi's hand. Sure enough, there's no indication of where it's from, there's only the word. Wu Yan couldn't help but frown when he saw this. He started thinking. Normally, every item would have a label that only players could see. The label would appear on top of the item. For example, the words recovery potion would appear on top of the item. Items that aren't labeled are usually unobtainable. For example, bricks on the streets, walls of buildings, trees in the wild, etc. Wu Yan, who has scoured the entire floor of Aincrad, has never seen anything like this before, let alone Sachi and the others. Sachi, let me see if you can trade. Sachi nodded without hesitation and placed the transfer crystal on the trade column. But as soon as she placed it, she was surprised. Ah, it can't be traded. There's a teleportation crystal that can't be traded. Suda, Xian, and the others looked at each other. Wu Yan frowned for a moment before he understood. It seems like this is an item that can only be used by players who pick up a quest. Everyone nodded. Sachi hesitated for a moment before she asked Wu Yan. Big bro, do you think we should complete this quest? Suda, Xian, and the others looked at Wu Yan. After all, having a quest doesn't mean you're lucky. If you don't have enough strength to complete a quest, you'll lose your life. What's the point of hoping for a quest reward? This was supposed to be a question for the members of Moonlit Black Cats, but Wu Yan's presence made everyone, including Suda the guild leader, ask for Wu Yan's permission. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and asked. Sachi, what's the quest requirement? I don't know. Sachi frowned. The quest only told me to use a teleportation crystal, that's all. Only telling you to use the teleportation crystal? Suda couldn't help but ask, is there not even a hint about where to get the quest reward? No. Sachi lowered her head. Huh. There's such an irresponsible quest. Shireen pursed her lips in dissatisfaction. I hate mysterious people the most. I'm afraid this quest isn't that simple. Wu Yan muttered, attracting everyone's attention. Wu Yan looked at the Moonlit Black Cats and explained. This quest is so mysterious. If it wasn't for Sachi, the entire town would have been bustling with noise and excitement. There's no news about this quest, so this should be a unique quest. Unique quest? Everyone's expression changed. They looked at the teleportation crystal and Sachi's hand with a burning gaze. Unique quests, were publicly acknowledged to have many times more bountiful rewards than normal quests. Many guilds and teams were willing to pay a hefty price in order to obtain information about a unique quest. And now, such a unique quest was placed in front of them. Wu Yan bitterly smiled when he saw Suda and the others' expressions. Don't forget, even though unique quests have great rewards, they're also known to be much harder than normal quests. If you don't do it right, this. Suda and the others were troubled. Suda was unwilling to give up. Can't we just look at a unique quest and we can't do it? The main problem is that there are too few hints. Wu Yan shrugged. You know, the less hints a quest has, the harder it is. Then what should we do? The timid Sachi was the first to back down. Why don't we give up on this quest? Suda and the others glanced at each other before sighing. Indeed, while the quest rewards were amazing, they weren't top players or teams. They didn't have the confidence to complete such a mysterious and unique quest, but Wu Yan suddenly laughed. Give up? How can we give up? The harder the quest, the better the rewards. Everyone was stunned. Sachi said worriedly, but, can we do it? Sachi. Wu Yan looked at Sachi. Since this crystal is a quest item, is there a rule stating that you can only complete it alone? There's no rule stating that I have to complete it alone. Sachi shook her head. What a joke, if she was the only one doing this quest, she wouldn't dare do it even if you beat her to death. Can this crystal teleport a group? Group teleport? Xian tilted her head. Aren't all teleportation crystals for a single person? What kind of crystal can teleport a group? Sachi was stunned. It seems like it can. The others exclaimed. Is that so? Wu Yan stood up and smiled. I'll go with you. Let's go together. The members of the Moonlit Black Cats were stunned. Then, a deep sense of joy appeared on their faces. That's great. Suda said excitedly. With you, we can definitely complete this quest. Where did you get all that confidence from? Wu Yan chuckled. I just came to the second floor. I don't know the difficulty of the monsters and quests here. Maybe even I can't complete this quest? No way. Xian walked in front of Wu Yan. If even you can't complete this quest, then no one else can. Wu Yan shook his head in amusement. This crystal can actually teleport a group of people. This is something that has never been done before. It is also because of this that Wu Yan wanted to do this quest. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let Wu Yan do it alone. Wu Yan looked at Sachi and saw her worried expression. He reached out and patted her head. Trust me. Wu Yan smiled. I won't let anything happen to you. Yes, Wu Yan isn't Kirito. He won't hide his strength, he'll risk his life for the people around him. In the original work, Kirito hid his strength and caused the deaths of the moonlit black cats. Wu Yan will not allow that to happen. Even if he has to use his own strength to force the quest to fail. Sachi looked up and saw Wu Yan's smiling face. The worry in her heart dissipated, and a smile appeared on her face. Wu Yan patted Sachi's head and looked at the others. Let's teleport, Sachi, okay. Sachi raised the teleportation crystal in her hand. Everyone was ready to go. She clicked on it and chose 7 people as her targets. The teleportation crystal enveloped Wu Yan and the rest of the moonlit black cats before they disappeared from the spot. When the light from the crystal enveloped everyone subconsciously closed their eyes. When they opened their eyes, the scene before them left them slightly stunned. At the same time, an extremely rancid smell came from all directions, causing everyone to suffocate in an instant. Their faces instantly paled. Chapter 627. Blurg, the putrid smell made the 7 of them retch. Sachi and Xian almost fainted from the strong pungent smell. Everyone, including Wu Yan, turned pale. F***CK. Wu Yan cursed. He quickly opened the system interface and blocked his sense of smell. Sachi and the others did the same. Only after everyone blocked their sense of smell did the sound of retching stop. Where is this? Xian's face was still pale. What a terrible place, the light here was a little too dim, and their vision was pitifully thin. It was almost to the point where they couldn't see the road clearly. This was also the reason why everyone was stunned when they were teleported here, because they thought they didn't open their eyes. Wu Yan patted his chest. He had already changed his equipment. He stared at the front for a while and gave up on the idea of using his eyes. He opened the map. Huh? Wu Yan was surprised when he opened the map. Why isn't the map showing us? The map doesn't show. Everyone was puzzled for a moment before they finally reacted. One by one, they hurriedly opened the map, only to find that it was all dark. How? Suda looked at the map dumbfoundedly. Are we in the labyrinth area? Aside from the labyrinth area, no matter where the players are, they can see the map. After all, how can they find a town without a map? No, this isn't the labyrinth area. Wu Yan looked around. You can't enter the labyrinth area with a teleportation crystal, even if it's a quest item. We should be in the wilderness. The labyrinth area is called a labyrinth area because players have to explore it themselves. If there's a teleportation crystal in the labyrinth area, they wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Of course, they can teleport out of the labyrinth area if they don't encounter a teleportation crystal ineffective area. Thinking about the teleportation crystal ineffective area, Wu Yan took out a teleportation crystal. Sure enough, the teleportation crystal's icon was gray. Crystal ineffective zone. The members of the moonlit black cats, who had recovered quite a bit, paled again. Oni-chan. Sachi moved closer to Wu Yan in fear. She was glad that she told Wu Yan about the quest. Otherwise, they would be alone in a place like this. Sachi didn't dare to imagine the consequences. Wu Yan took a step forward. His pupils narrowed into a line as he finally managed to see the situation clearly. He was standing in the center of a dark cross-shaped tunnel. In front of him, behind him, to his left, and to his right, there was a tunnel that led to an unknown place. The tunnel was very long, with no end in sight. The walls of the tunnel were pitch black and emitted a rotten smell. It was very obvious that the smell that made Wu Yan and the others vomit came from them. Brother. Sachi looked at Wu Yan and asked, "What should we do now?" They had arrived at an area where crystals were ineffective, and it was a very obvious labyrinth, where even maps were useless. This situation was enough to make the members of the Moonlit Black Cats at a loss. "Oniai-chan, how do we get out? There doesn't seem to be an exit here." Cheyenne looked around, blinked her eyes, and said resentfully, "How do we get out?" Shireen's words gave everyone a huge shock. The teleportation crystal couldn't be used, the map couldn't be used, and the surroundings were sealed off. How were they supposed to get out? Sachi also stared blankly at Cheyenne, not knowing what to do. Originally, being trapped in a game where they could die at any time already made her feel gloomy. If in the end, they were still trapped in a dark and empty maze, she would definitely break down. She subconsciously clenched her hand. As she clenched her hand, she immediately felt something hard in her palm. She instinctively looked at it. Her eyes widened and she cried out in surprise. This teleportation crystal is still here." While everyone was at a loss, Sachi discovered that the teleportation crystal in her hand was still there. Hearing Sachi's words, everyone turned to look at Sachi. At the same time, they also saw that the teleportation crystal didn't change at all. "What kind of teleportation crystal is this?" Wu Yan couldn't help but say, "Not only can it teleport a group, but it can also be used multiple times. If players had a teleportation crystal like this, it would be much more convenient, Oniai-chan." Sachi raised the teleportation crystal in her hand and said in surprise, "This teleportation crystal seems to be available for trade, oh?" Wu Yan walked up to Sachi and obtained the teleportation crystal from her trade window. Looking at the only one that wasn't gray, Wu Yan clicked to use it, but there was no reaction. Rolling his eyes, he muttered in a low voice, "Leave this place." The teleportation crystal didn't respond. "Get out." Still no reaction. "Open sesame." Pineapple asterisk 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 asterisk. Mommy boom. "Little bunny, be good and open the door. Hurry up and open it. If you don't open it, I'll smash it." Wu Yan was speechless. Looking at Wu Yan competing with a crystal, the members of Moonlit Black Cats felt like their brains were about to crash. Was this guy really a super strong player that could solo a level boss? "We won't be trapped here forever, right?" Cheyenne laughed awkwardly and said something that made everyone's heart go cold. "No, we won't." Wu Yan put down the teleportation crystal, looked at the 4 dark passages around him and said, "Sao doesn't have a death setting, and it won't open a map that can't be left for no reason. Isn't there a path here? Let's go." The 6 members of the Moonlit Black Cats looked at each other and nodded. Wu Yan looked at the 4 identical passages. He hesitated for a moment and walked toward the passage ahead. The Moonlit Black Cats quickly followed him. "Everyone, be careful. We don't know if there are monsters," Wu Yan reminded them. They nodded. The current situation is beyond their ability to deal with. They can only rely on Wu Yan. Walking at the front of the passage, the group of 7 didn't speak. The atmosphere was very heavy and silent. Sachi and Cheyenne's hands were tightly clasped together, like 2 young girls who had entered a haunted house. Their faces were filled with anxiety, constantly worrying that a monster would jump out of nowhere. The passage didn't lead to the end. After walking for a while, they arrived at a fork in the road. Wu Yan pondered for a moment and chose to go straight ahead. But it didn't take long for another fork in the road. Wu Yan had no choice but to go straight ahead. The passageway was not a straight line either. Instead, it had many twists and turns. Among the twists and turns, there were forks that led to different directions. In addition, the passageway was not a straight line. Not long after, the 7 of them began to feel a little dizzy. They were more or less worried. It won't end here, right? Fortunately, they arrived at the end of the passage. But no one is happy. Because it's a dead end. We won't really be sealed here forever, right? Cheyenne was already starting to get scared. Sachi hugged her body. Xian, don't say any more. Sachi was scared too. I don't think so. Suda and the others swallowed their saliva. Wu Yan didn't say anything. He tapped his feet and he quickly turned around. He led everyone to wander around the passageway. God knows how many times they wandered around. In the end, he stopped at a fork in the road. He looked at the 3 passageways in front of him and he didn't say anything for a long time. He couldn't remember which intersection he had come from. There are no monsters, no traps, only a maze. Wu Yan looked at the top of the passage. This is troublesome. Chapter 628. In this chaotic maze world, the group of 7 had completely lost their sense of direction. The passageway sometimes forked in 2, sometimes in 3, with countless forks in the middle. When they finally lost their sense of direction, everyone was completely immersed in this enormous maze map. Not to mention finding the exit, they couldn't even find the original path anymore, and once they found the end of the path, there was only one result, death, leading the moonlit black cats through the chaotic maze. Wu Yan's pace was already much faster than before. His face was calm, his eyebrows tightly knitted together as he looked ahead, trying to calm down, trying to find the path he'd taken in his memory. Logically speaking, he wouldn't be able to forget the path he'd taken. With his perfect memory ability, Wu Yan was very sure that he'd remember all the paths he'd taken, but every time he came to a fork, Wu Yan couldn't recognize where he'd come from and where he'd go. It wasn't that his perfect memory ability had failed, but that he'd completely lost his sense of direction, making him unable to recognize the path he'd taken. The labyrinth is very complicated. Even with his godly memory, he can remember the first section of the path, the second section, the third section, the fourth section, the fifth section, and the rest of the paths. However, the problem of direction has nothing to do with memory. Once he gets lost, he won't be able to find his starting point no matter how hard he tries. Even if he does find his starting point, the end of the path he chose is always a dead end. Obviously, the maze didn't test one's memory. When a maze reached a certain level of complexity, even heaven-defying memory would be useless, because you'd already lost your sense of direction. To put it bluntly, a maze was sometimes even more terrifying than a boss. Because a boss could only destroy a person's body, a maze could destroy a person's mind. As time passed, the members of the moonlit black cats began to panic. Every one of them was extremely restless, and their complexions were extremely unsightly. Traces of viciousness appeared on everyone's faces. If this continued, the people here would most likely be the first to break down. Seeing this scene, Wu Yan was silent, but his heart was filled with haze. Using the memory tunnel method was definitely impossible. As for making markings, the common method used in the labyrinth area would not work here because the map had lost its effect. The marking function was on the ground icon. As for carving scratches on the ground or walls, or leaving something behind as a mark, these methods were all useless. It's common knowledge in SAO that the setting cannot be destroyed. Even if you lose something to mark it, it will disappear automatically after a minute. Not only is it a waste, but it's also useless. Wu Yan could only rack his brains to come up with a solution as he continued to walk in the dark tunnel. Then, an hour passed. Glancing at the members of the moonlit black cats, Wu Yan clenched his teeth. However, he did not want to give up or become anxious. Instead, he became calmer and calmer. The more dangerous the situation was, the more he couldn't lose his cool. Just like the last time when he faced the Beast King, wasn't it also because he was calm that he was able to think of a solution? Rubbing his forehead, Wu Yan stared at the surrounding as if he wanted to see through all the walls. He couldn't help but feel a little tired. I can't leave this place, and I can't find a way out either. How can this place be so scary? This is only the second floor of Aincrad, and it's already so scary. How did the players reach the 75th floor in the original work? How did they even get to the 75th floor? Am I really going to be trapped in this labyrinth until I die? Unwilling to give up, Wu Yan tried his best to remain calm. He subconsciously clenched his fist. Suddenly, Wu Yan's hand that was holding onto the wall caved in after a cracked sound. Wu Yan was stunned. He quickly retracted his hand and turned to look at the source of the sound. He saw 5 fingerprints on the wall where he pressed his hand. Thinking back to the tkacha sound when he shook the hand, the 5 fingerprints were obviously made by him. An impenetrable map actually left a mark on it because of his touch. Wu Yan's mind shook as an idea flashed through his mind. Did I make a mistake? Is this map really something that can be destroyed? Thinking of this, Wu Yan started to feel that something was wrong. No matter which path he chose, the end would lead him to a dead end. Could it be that this isn't a labyrinth at all, but a map with no way out? Narrowing his eyes, Wu Yan instantly pulled out the heaven gazer from his back and raised it above his head. Under the shocked gazes of the moonlit black cats, he forcefully swung it at the wall in front of him. Clang! A deafening sound resounded through the entire space, echoing in the deathly silent tunnel. The sudden loud sound pierced the eardrums of the members of the moonlit black cats, causing them to subconsciously cry out in shock. A huge force crawled up Wu Yan's arm from the heaven gazer. He couldn't help but take a step back from the shock. He used all his strength to strike the wall, but the wall didn't even have a scratch on it. This was completely different from before when he easily pressed his hand down. However, Wu Yan wasn't shocked. Instead, he was ecstatic. The moonlit black cats also recovered from their shock. On the wall, a HP bar appeared. HP bar. Xian pointed at the wall, her face flushed red. It really is a HP bar. Sachi was stunned for a moment before rejoicing. This wall, can it be destroyed? Keita's hand trembled. God knows how he managed to survive this 1 hour in the labyrinth. He only knew that he couldn't stay here any longer. Not only him, but everyone else as well. Everyone. Attack with all your strength. It wasn't Wu Yan, it wasn't Suda, it wasn't Sachi, it wasn't Xian, it wasn't Wu Yan, it wasn't Suda, it wasn't even Xian. No one hesitated. Their previous impatience finally erupted at this moment. Together with Sachi and Xian, everyone raised their weapons and hacked at the wall with all their might. Bang 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 bang, the moment everyone's attacks hit the wall, the 7 weapons danced like shadows. In just an instant, a series of muffled sounds could be heard. On the wall, where everyone's attacks were concentrated, the HP bar on the wall dropped rapidly. Everyone's face lit up. Wu Yan grabbed the heaven gazer and shouted at everyone. Use your skills. The 6 members of the moonlit black cats used their skills at the same time. Their weapons flashed with multicolored light, and they mercilessly attacked the wall without stopping. It was easy to imagine how much they wanted to leave this place. Looking at the HP bar on the wall, Wu Yan's eyes flashed. The hand holding the heaven gazer shook and a star-like light flashed. 7 stars. Boom! A roar louder than any of the previous sounds came out. The HP bar on the wall instantly dropped from yellow to red, then all the way to the bottom. Under the joyful gazes of the 7 of them, the wall in front of them collapsed under the attack of everyone's skills. With the collapse of the wall, the ground suddenly began to tremble, as if some mechanism had been triggered, startling everyone. However, the trembling only lasted for a few seconds before it stopped. What replaced it was the huge maze, as if it had been vaporized, slowly fading away until it completely disappeared. The labyrinth. It disappeared. Chapter 629. Under the surprised gazes of the 7, a forest appeared behind the vaporized walls of the labyrinth. It was clearly just an ordinary forest, but in the eyes of the 7 who had been trapped in the labyrinth for an hour, this forest seemed very familiar, like a paradise. Oh! We're out! Shirinhuan screamed and threw herself on Sachi's body, rubbing her chest. Her face was full of joy. If it was the usual Sachi, then her face would have already turned red, but now, Sachi was completely immersed in joy. We're finally out. Although the remaining 4 male members of the moonlit black cats didn't lose their composure like the 2 female members, their eyes were filled with joy, and their bodies were trembling with excitement. Don't be happy too early. Wu Yan shook his head with a bitter smile and said in a bad mood, we haven't completely left this place, this forest isn't within the map's range. Hearing this, the moonlit black cats nodded, but their faces didn't seem to care. To them, being able to leave this damned labyrinth was already a very satisfying thing. Seeing this, Wu Yan could only continue to smile bitterly. Walking to the front of the forest, Wu Yan glanced around and unwillingly opened the map, but of course, he didn't get any information. Sighing, Wu Yan waved at the moonlit black cats. "Let's go quickly, this damned mission, I'm starting to get impatient." Saying this, Wu Yan didn't wait for the moonlit black cats to reply and walked into the forest. The moonlit black cats hurriedly chased after him. After entering the forest, the surrounding light was obviously a lot dimmer, and it was eerily quiet, so quiet that it was scary. Not a single sound could be heard, not even the sound of insects or birds. It was so quiet that it made one's heart beat faster. Xian and Sachi nervously took a few steps closer to Wu Yan, and tried to lower their footsteps as much as possible, as if they were afraid of waking something up. This was the first time they had experienced such a gloomy scene. Although it was a scene in the game world, the two girls felt that it was no different from being in the real world. Their hearts palpitated a little. After walking for an unknown amount of time, a sudden commotion came from the bushes in front of them. The rustling sound made the group of 7 stop immediately. At this time, 6 or 7 brown shadows suddenly jumped out from the bushes and rushed towards them. "Be careful!" Wu Yan shouted. Before he could finish his words, his body flashed past the eyes of the 6 people like a bolt of lightning. Stab! Out of the 7 figures that had just rushed out, 4 of them were hit by the sudden thrust, and their HP was instantly emptied. Before the figures turned into fragments and disappeared, everyone saw the true appearance of the figure. It was a monster that looked like a civet cat, with a long tail and no feet, but a pair of sharp claws. Never seen this type of monster before, Wu Yan stopped in his tracks. When he heard the sound of something flying behind him, he reacted and quickly turned around. With a spin of his body, Heaven Gazer turned into a windmill and he swung it with all his might towards the remaining 3 Tanuki monsters that just landed on the ground. Bang! The Heavenly Gazer swept its target, causing 3 bright red HP bars to appear. The 3 civet cats let out a strange whine, but what welcomed them was the great sword of the Heavenly Gazer in front of them. Bang! There were clearly 3 attacks, but only one sound was heard. In the blink of an eye, the 7 legless civet cats that darted out from the bushes were all smashed into pieces. Only a box that showed the experience, money, items, and other information of the killer flashed in the air. Originally, the members of the moonlit black cats had already raised their weapons, and when they were about to attack, they found out that the enemies had been completely wiped out. They stood there as if petrified, their eyes wide open and their mouths wide open, as if they had seen a ghost. Xian put down her weapon and pursed her lips. I seriously suspect that he either has a weak point finding skill, or his attack power is insane. In less than 2 to 3 seconds, before anyone could react, the 7 monsters that were obviously not ordinary were all annihilated just like that. Big Brother is so strong. Sachi, who was shocked by the civet cat's appearance, subconsciously clasped her hands in front of her chest and whispered softly. Wu Yan continued to walk forward as if nothing had happened, and only then did the members of the moonlit black cats react. This is too. Suda gulped. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he couldn't even finish a sentence. They didn't know what to say when they saw Wu Yan continue to walk forward. They followed Wu Yan with their heads lowered. They tried their best to look at Wu Yan's body as if they were trying to find a flower to bloom from his body. Oblivious to the shock he brought to the moonlit black cats by insta-killing the monsters, Wu Yan walked at the front without a care in the world. To him, these monsters may be of decent levels, but he's already way stronger than the average player. If they're just small monsters, insta-killing them isn't a big deal. Back then, even the personal guards of the boss had their HP wiped out in one hit. What could these wild monsters do to him? As the group walked deeper into the forest, the atmosphere became more oppressive. The dim light and the dark clouds in the sky made everyone's heart heavy, and their breathing became more rapid. How long are we going to walk? She didn't know how many times she had complained. Her face was filled with dissatisfaction. The gloomy atmosphere around her made her body feel extremely unnatural. Although it wasn't as strange as the previous maze, it still gave people a lot of pressure. Well, we'll know when we continue. Anyway, we've been walking in that damn maze for more than an hour, it won't hurt to walk a little longer. As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Yan's footsteps suddenly stopped. The members of the Moonlit Black Cats also stopped. They looked at him suspiciously, then looked forward. When they saw what was in front of them, other than Wu Yan, everyone felt a chill down their spine and subconsciously raised their weapons. In front of them, 5 pairs of dark red eyes were slowly blinking in the dark forest. They were like wild wolves or brown bears that came out to hunt for food at night. The ominous glint in those eyes made the 6 members of the Moonlit Black Cats feel their hair stand on end. It must be said that this scene was quite terrifying for those who were timid. Sachi and Xian didn't dare to look in front of them anymore. They held their weapons tightly in their hands. Wu Yan squinted his eyes. His vision in Sao isn't as good as it is in his real body. His vision was challenged by the darkness of the night. It took him a while to get a clear look at the owner of the 5 pairs of red eyes. It's still a civet cat, but this one is twice as big as the previous 7. It has no feet and relies on its tail to support itself on the ground. It wriggled its tail like a snake and moved slowly on the ground. Its pair of claws are much longer than a cat's. There's a metallic luster on its claws, accompanied by a cold glint. At this time, the members of the Moonlit Black Cats clearly saw the monsters hidden in the darkness. Looking at the 5 civet cats that were even larger than tigers, the 6 of them raised their weapons in unison. However, they didn't foolishly rush forward, but instead hesitated. What a high level. One of the members of the Moonlit Black Cats was speechless. Are the monsters on the 2nd floor all at this level? Wu Yan tilted his head and looked at the tanuki in confusion. He hasn't been out in the wild of the 2nd floor, but he heard that the levels of the monsters here aren't that high. These tanuki's levels are almost at the same level as the monsters in the labyrinth area. Wait here. Wu Yan tightened his grip on Heaven Gazer. I'll test these monsters. After that, Wu Yan rushed toward the 5 monsters in front of him. Chapter 630. At the same time Wu Yan pounced on the civet cat, the 5 civet cats hiding in the dark also pounced on him at the same time. Their sharp claws mercilessly slashed at his body. In a short moment, the distance between the 2 was infinitely close. When the civet cats were about to hit their claws, Wu Yan jumped and the 5 civet cats immediately slammed into his previous position, right under Wu Yan's body. Crushing blow. The Heaven Gazer in his hand flashed with the light of a skill. The black greatsword carried the blue light of the skill and fiercely chopped down at the 5 legless civet cats. Bang! The greatsword hit the bodies of the 5 legless tanuki at the same time, blasting their suspended bodies to the ground. Taking advantage of this opening, Wu Yan charged forward in a straight line before landing on the ground and circling behind the tanuki. His timing is perfect. Seeing this, a member of the Moonlit Black Cats wanted to rush up and beat up Wu Yan, but Keita raised his hand to stop him and shook his head. Forget it, it's better if we don't attack. If we accidentally draw aggro, we'll only cause trouble for him. After saying that, Keita looked at Wu Yan and said. As expected of someone who can solo a level boss. After seeing it with my own eyes, I understand that we still need to work hard to reach the level of top players. Hearing Keita's words, all the members of the Moonlit Black Cats, including Sachi and Xian, nodded with a serious expression. Having such a strong person by their side is a pressure, but at the same time, it's also a whip. At this moment, they all had the same thought. They must train themselves well, even if they can't fight side by side with Wu Yan, they must at least be able to not drag him down. Under Wu Yan's influence, the Moonlit Black Cats embarked on a completely different path from the original game. In front of them, Wu Yan's figure shuttled left and right under the attacks of the civet cats, dodging all of their attacks. Then he used crushing blow twice on the same civet cat. One has to admit that the civet cat's HP is very high. Even after being hit by Wu Yan's crushing blow once, it still took Wu Yan 2 more times to clear its HP bar. The civet cat shattered into pieces and disappeared into the void, but Wu Yan didn't stop there. He quickly turned around and shot out. With a sudden thrust, he pierced through 2 civet cats that were pouncing at him. The 2 civet cats fell down from the impact of the sudden thrust. Just as they were about to struggle to get up, a huge force suddenly came from their bodies. The 2 civet cats' HP bars were instantly emptied and they disappeared from their original position. Only the pitch-black blade of the Heaven Gazer remained in their original position. 5 civet cats, only 3 were left. And at this time, it had only been 10 seconds since Wu Yan rushed up. The difference in level wasn't that great, but the difference in numbers was 5 times. This battle that should have been in the favor of the civet cats was actually in the favor of Wu Yan. What was even more ridiculous was that after killing 2 civet cats, Wu Yan was still completely unscathed. His HP bar was still full, not even the corner of his clothes was touched. Wu Yan, who was able to face 5 civet cats with ease, was now even more relaxed when facing the remaining 3. He moved his feet as if he was taking a stroll, using the simplest movements to dodge the attacks of the 3 civet cats. From time to time, he would swing his sword twice. As long as he grasped the opportunity, the light of a skill would shine from the Heaven Gazer. The members of the Moonlit Black Cats felt as if they were watching an illusory movie. Moreover, it was the kind of movie that could destroy people's worldview, making them speechless. So much so that the members of the Moonlit Black Cats didn't notice that behind them, a pair of dark red eyes appeared from the bushes. Immediately, the eyes launched an attack and pounced towards the Moonlit Black Cats. Wu Yan, who had finished off the 5 civet cats, happened to see a black shadow pouncing towards the Moonlit Black Cats from the bushes. His pupils violently contracted. With the HP and defense of the members of the Moonlit Black Cats, the civet cat only needed to attack 2 or 3 times to kill any one of them. Without much time to think, Wu Yan quickly rushed forward, the Heaven Gazer flashing with a blue light as he activated the thrust skill. Under the effect of thrust, his speed increased by 2 to 3 times. His body turned into a black line, and with an unparalleled momentum, he rushed towards the Moonlit Black Cats. Before the members of the Moonlit Black Cats could react, a black shadow pounced from behind them, leaping over their heads. But before it could reach them, another black shadow dashed from the front, followed by a muffled sound. The civet cat's body was immediately sent flying backwards, crashing into a tree trunk. Its HP plummeted, and not long after, it was emptied. The members of the Moonlit Black Cats just happened to see this scene, and only then did they realize what had happened. With a schwa sound, cold sweat poured down. "I say," Wu Yan unhappily said to the group, "although I didn't ask you to attack, you can't let your guard down." The members of the Moonlit Black Cats scratched their heads in embarrassment. Wu Yan is both annoyed and amused at the same time. But what can he do about it? These people were just normal students a month ago. It's normal for them to make some mistakes. Phew. These monsters are so high-leveled. Sutta let out a long sigh of relief, and then said with relief, "Fortunately you came with us this time, or else we wouldn't even know if we could survive, let alone complete the mission." The remaining 5 members of the Moonlit Black Cats nodded, and a look of relief appeared on their faces. Wu Yan rolled his eyes and ignored them, turning around and continuing forward, as if he didn't care about the life or death of the members of the Moonlit Black Cats. But if one looked closely, they would notice that Wu Yan was especially vigilant. Even if he encountered monsters, he would still pay attention to the Moonlit Black Cats. However, after seeing the Moonlit Black Cats gang up on a tanuki and beat it to death, Wu Yan gradually relaxed. Every time he encountered a monster, he would intentionally or unintentionally let go one of them, allowing it to charge into the encirclement of the Moonlit Black Cats. That's a way of taking care of the tanuki. Just like that, the group of 7 walked for a period of time. Suddenly, the area in front of them became empty. The gloomy atmosphere was still there, but within a radius of 100 meters, there were no trees. At a glance, a cave appeared in front of them. In front of the cave entrance, a lion covered in golden light was quietly lying there in a deep slumber. No, it shouldn't be called a lion, more accurately, it should be called a lion man, because its two front paws were palm-shaped, and its body was as slender as a human's. It also had a chest and belly. Seeing this lion man, the group of 7 quickly stopped. The information that appeared on the lion man was completely different from normal monsters, causing the members of the moonlit black cats to suck in a breath of cold air. That was because the lion man was a boss. Almost at the same time they saw the boss, a quest message appeared in everyone's quest window. The quest content was to kill the lion man boss in front of them. Looks like this quest has come to an end. Wu Yan couldn't help but smile. Don't say it like the quest is about to be completed, it's killing a boss. Xian shrunk her head. Even if she had a preliminary understanding of Wu Yan's strength, she still couldn't help but feel a little unconfident. Wu Yan didn't pay attention to Xian, he grabbed Heaven Gazer and strode forward. You guys wait for me here, don't come near, at least maintain a distance of 10 meters. Also, if other monsters come, I'll let you guys deal with them. As long as it's not a boss and there aren't many of them, you guys should have no problem. Obviously, Wu Yan wanted to solo a boss. The members of the moonlit black cats looked at each other, resisting the urge to persuade him, and nodded in agreement. Chapter 631. In SAO, it's not a big deal to challenge a monster above your level. As long as you're a strong player, you'll usually challenge a monster above your level. Because of this, you'll get more experience, money, and items. However, it's a big deal to challenge a monster above your level. A monster boss and a normal monster were on 2 completely different levels. For example, a level 50 monster might be as strong as a level 45 player, but a level 50 monster boss would require a player at least 10 levels above it to be able to solo it. And that's only if you're at the level of Kirito and Asuna. You can imagine how big the gap is between a monster boss and a normal monster. Even a normal boss was like this, let alone a guardian boss that only had 1 guardian boss on each floor. Challenging a guardian boss that was of a higher level than the guardian boss was an act of suicide. Even Wu Yan's level is higher than the floor boss when he challenged the floor boss alone. Because of this, Wu Yan dared to challenge the floor boss directly. If he's at the same level as the floor boss, Wu Yan would still dare to challenge the floor boss alone, but he wouldn't dare to do so. With the strength of a floor boss, even if he challenged a floor boss of the same level, it's still a suicidal act. There are only a few people who can do it. Wu Yan is one of them, and the future Kirito is also one of them. This is why Wu Yan is the idol of many players. Although the floor boss in front of him isn't a floor boss, it's still not a normal monster. However, Wu Yan has done a lot of solo floor bosses, and he's also challenged monsters above his level. Although the Lion Beast Man boss level is higher than him, it's not that much higher. Wu Yan is confident that he can take on such a floor boss alone. Of course, even if he's confident, he still has to be vigilant. Wu Yan already knew about the Beast King's incident. Even if he's confident, he can't let his guard down. Otherwise, it'll only lead to tragedy. Therefore, the closer he got to the Lion Beast Man boss, the lighter Wu Yan's footsteps became. Towards the end, he couldn't hear his footsteps at all. Trying his best to keep his footsteps as light as possible, he inched closer and closer to the Lion Man boss. Finally, when he was about 10 meters away from the Lion Beast Man boss, the Lion Beast Man woke up from its slumber. A pair of golden lion eyes opened and it shifted its gaze onto Wu Yan. Before he could get up from his prone position, the Lion Man boss kicked off the ground and pounced at Wu Yan, closing the distance between him and Wu Yan to within 5 meters. Roar! The Lion Beast Man boss leaped high into the air as if it had grown a pair of wings. It pounced towards Wu Yan. Its incomparably sharp claws reflected a cold golden light under the dim light of the forest. With a slight whistling sound, it charged straight for Wu Yan's face. The Lion Beast Man boss's pounce wasn't as simple as a normal pounce. It was a skill. Not only did it have an extremely high attack power, but its pounce speed was also incomparably fast. Its huge body also carried a suppressive aura as it pounced forward, causing people to tremble from the bottom of their hearts and even forget to dodge. It's like a person standing in the middle of the road. If a car were to crash into him, he would be so flustered that he wouldn't know how to move. Of course, those with extremely strong mental fortitude were exceptions. Wu Yan was clearly such a person. Originally, to defeat a monster, normal players of the same level could form a team of 2 or 3 people. But to defeat a lion beastman boss, even elite players of the same level would need at least 5 people of the same level. With excellent coordination, it would take a relatively long time to complete the task. A lion beastman boss had extremely high defense, frightening attack power, and even terrifying skills. A lion beastman boss was terrifying enough to rival dozens of normal monsters of the same level. At the current stage, perhaps only Wu Yan could solo a lion beastman boss. The lion beastman boss's pounce was very frightening. When the lion beastman boss left the ground, Wu Yan also instantly moved. His originally slow and light footsteps quickly landed. He quickly took 2 steps forward and arrived in front of the lion beastman boss. He then moved to the side, just barely dodging the lion beastman boss's pounce. Immediately after, a crushing blow came crashing down in the direction of the lion man boss, as if it was a wave of water. Bang! The heavenly gazer directly landed on the lion beastman boss's body, causing a cracking sound. The lion beastman boss's body had just landed on the ground when the crushing blow came from behind and was sent flying back nearly 2 meters. Because the lion beastman boss's body had not yet stabilized when it landed, the crushing blow actually caused the lion beastman boss to stagger and fall to the ground. The top bar of the lion beastman boss's HP bar had decreased by about 10%. With Wu Yan's attack power and skills, he could only deal 1% damage to the lion beastman boss. With this kind of defense and HP, it would be very difficult to find a player who could break through the lion beastman boss's defense at the current stage of the game. Even players of the same level could only deal limited damage to it. Glancing at the lion beastman boss's HP bar, Wu Yan clicked his tongue. Taking advantage of the lion beastman boss's fall, he quickly rushed forward and used 2 crushing blows on the lion beastman boss before it could get back up. Once again, the lion beastman boss lost another 25% of its HP. Wu Yan then turned around and retreated. The lion beastman boss seemed to only have one skill, pounce. After it got back up, it immediately used pounce again. Even though it had the body of a human, it attacked like a wild beast. This made Wu Yan suspicious, but at the same time, he was also secretly on guard. With small, quick steps, he dodged the lion beastman boss's pounce. The 3 consecutive pounce attacks were all perfectly dodged by Wu Yan. In terms of speed, Wu Yan was definitely faster than the lion beastman boss. However, in terms of agility, Wu Yan couldn't compare to the lion beastman boss. Therefore, Wu Yan only moved within a small area and used infinite martial refining to completely dodge the lion beastman boss's pounce. Then, he quickly pulled away from the lion beastman boss. Wu Yan's figure was like a constantly twisting wind, constantly swaying in front of the lion beastman boss. Every time, the lion beastman boss would almost pounce on him. Even the spectating moonlit black cats broke out in a cold sweat for Wu Yan. But soon, the lion beastman boss's pounce would become a blur in front of their eyes. Every time, the lion beastman boss's pounce would only miss by a tiny bit. If the lion beastman boss had intelligence, it would probably be angered to death. Wu Yan didn't know if the lion man boss had any intelligence. However, after the repeated failures of its pounce attacks, the lion man boss's eyes glowed with rage. Wu Yan's pupils constricted when he saw the lion man boss's eyes flickering with rage. Roar! After missing several times, the lion beastman boss finally stopped using pounce. Instead, it landed on the ground and stood up like a human. It stomped on the ground with its 2 feet and charged towards Wu Yan with a heavy pressure like a truck. Wu Yan's eyes flashed sharply. Just as the lion beastman boss was about to make a move, he stepped back slightly and smirked. Then, he rashly rammed into the lion beastman boss's body. Ah! Seeing this scene, the members of the moonlit black cats cried out in alarm. Could it be that Wu Yan wanted to meet the Lion Beast Man boss head-on? The distance between the man and the Lion Beast Man boss was instantly shortened. Just as they were about to collide, Wu Yan suddenly tapped his foot and leaped high into the air. He did a low somersault and jumped over the Lion Beast Man boss's huge body. Then, he landed steadily on the ground. He didn't turn around to attack. Instead, he suddenly accelerated and ran towards the strange cave. Chapter 632. This sudden turn of events stunned everyone in the moonlit Black Cats. They looked at Wu Yan, who was running towards the cave, then at the Lion Man boss. A.O. After another missed attack, the Lion Man boss let out a furious roar. Its eyes seemed to be on fire as it glared at Wu Yan running towards the cave, then it quickly turned around and chased after him. However, it was clear that the Lion Man boss's movement speed was inferior to Wu Yan's. Although it quickly closed the distance between Wu Yan, it only took a short while for Wu Yan to widen the gap again. In an instant, the distance between the two was more than 10 meters. Seeing this, the moonlit Black Cats didn't express any joy. Instead, they all looked anxious, as if they couldn't wait for Wu Yan to pull away from the Lion Man boss. Of course, that wasn't the reason, but the direction Wu Yan was running towards was a dead end. If this continued, the Lion Man boss would catch up to him sooner or later. Moreover, he would be forced into a dead end, which was very disadvantageous for him. Big brother. Sachi couldn't help but call out, wanting to warn Wu Yan, but Suda immediately stopped her. Sachi, don't worry, there's no way he doesn't know there's a dead end in front of him. Since he knows and is still running in that direction, he must have his own plans. Let's just stay here and watch, but... Sachi looked at Wu Yan worriedly, then at Suda, before finally retreating. In the battlefield ahead, Wu Yan finally reached the cave's stone wall. Facing a tall stone wall, he couldn't advance any further. Behind him was the Lion Man boss's charge. The members of Moonlit Black Cats raised their guard as they looked at the Lion Man boss charging towards Wu Yan. Wu Yan stood motionless at the base of the stone wall. A drop of sweat trickled down their cheeks. The Lion Man boss fiercely charged towards Wu Yan in front of the stone wall. Wu Yan didn't turn around. Feeling the wind behind him, the corner of his mouth hooked up into a sly smile. In the next moment, the Lion Man boss brazenly charged forward, instantly closing in on Wu Yan. Wu Yan finally made his move. His body suddenly leapt into the air, just like before. He did a low somersault and arrived on top of the Lion Man boss's head. When his body reached the highest point, he lightly tapped on the stone wall and somersaulted over the Lion Man boss's body. The Lion Man boss was charging towards the stone wall. Boom! Following a loud explosion, the Lion Man boss heavily slammed into the stone wall. The huge impact caused the stone wall to tremble, and the Lion Man boss was sent flying backwards, lying on the ground. Behind the Lion Man boss was standing Wu Yan. Wielding the Heavenly Gazer, Wu Yan rushed forward, the light of a skill flashing as he activated Crushing Blow. The Lion Man boss was stunned and couldn't get up for a while. The Lion Man boss's attack power was very high, terrifyingly high. Even with Wu Yan's current HP and defense, if he was hit by the Lion Man boss, his HP would drop by at least half. But at the same time, because of the high attack power, the reaction force was also very strong. When the Lion Man boss slammed into the stone wall, it was equivalent to slamming itself. Before Wu Yan attacked, the Lion Man boss's HP had dropped by a lot. Moreover, it still couldn't get up from the ground. With such a good opportunity to attack, Wu Yan naturally wouldn't let it go. He continuously used Crushing Blow, greeting the Lion Man boss's HP again and again, reducing the Lion Man boss's HP by 2/3. As for himself, his HP was still full. Up until now, the Lion Man boss hadn't even touched the corner of his clothes. Therefore, the Moonlit Black Cat's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when they saw a player with full health whipping a boss that was even higher leveled than him and lying on the ground like an idiot. The Moonlit Black Cat's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. That's amazing. Shireen couldn't find any other words to describe her feelings. Amazing. Sutta was speechless. Using such a method to knock out a Lion Man boss and stun it, that's amazing. Now I believe he can solo a Lion Man boss. Xian said excitedly. Let's finish it off quickly. It's a Lion Man boss, I'm sure it'll drop some good stuff, right? Although Moonlit Black Cats is a guild, there are only 6 of them in the guild. Their strength and level aren't that high. During their 1 month in SAO, they didn't even have the chance to fight a Lion Man boss, let alone a Lion Man boss. If it weren't for the fact that they are helping Wu Yan deal with things that he doesn't have the time to deal with, getting some benefits from it and occasionally trading for some good equipment, the Moonlit Black Cats would at best be a third-rate force. Even now, they are just a second-rate force. Now that a Lion Man boss is about to be taken down in front of them, the members of Moonlit Black Cats couldn't help but feel excited. It's as if they're the ones taking down the Lion Man boss. Roar. The Lion Man boss roared at the sky and finally recovered from the stun. Wu Yan paused for a moment, then continued to bombard the Lion Man boss with crushing blow. His attack power didn't decrease at all, but the Lion Man boss's HP dropped a lot. After the Lion Man boss roared, its HP dropped to red due to Wu Yan's continuous bombardment. It's only one step away from being turned into a pile of experience points. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat when they saw the red HP bar. They didn't even dare to look away from the Lion Man boss, afraid that they might miss something. Because the Lion Man boss will most likely go berserk after its HP drops to red, just like the first floor's boss. Sure enough, a very clear stream of air suddenly emitted from the Lion Man boss. It was like a volcanic eruption, causing the temperature of the surrounding air to rise. Careful. The members of Moonlit Black Cats couldn't help but shout. Wu Yan's expression froze for a moment, but soon, a cold smile appeared on his face. 7 stars, with Wu Yan's body as the center, a gust of wind suddenly erupted. Wu Yan held Heavenly Gazer in his hand and spun at an extremely fast speed. The speed of his spin reached a terrifying level in an instant. Heavenly Gazer turned into a blur as Wu Yan spun, and in an instant, it slashed the Lion Man boss 7 times. The 7 attacks were completed at almost the same time. Wu Yan's rapidly spinning body quickly came to a stop under his control. At the same time, the Lion Man boss's roar came to an abrupt end. The last HP bar also slowly decreased until it completely disappeared. Borrowing the centrifugal force of his body's rotation, the Heavenly Gazer's attack was activated. His body spun 7 times in an instant, and the Heavenly Gazer slashed 7 times in a row. Under such a terrifying rotation speed, the Lion Man boss was extremely sullen. He didn't even have the chance to use his final trump card before his HP dropped to 0. His huge body collapsed to the ground like a pile of mud, letting out a loud thud. Bang! A sound like glass shattering resounded from the Lion Man boss's body. Under the ecstatic gazes of the Moonlit Black Cats, the Lion Man boss's body that was at least twice as tall as Wu Yan instantly turned into fragments that filled the air. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. The faces of the 6 members of the Moonlit Black Cats flushed red, and their bodies trembled, as if they were trying their best to hold back something. Immediately after, a cheer came out from the mouths of the 6 of them. Chapter 633. When the cheers spread across the empty field, there were even a few monster roars in the forest, as if responding to the Moonlit Black Cats. For a moment, the gloomy forest was filled with a little warmth. Wu Yan put the Heaven Gazer back on his back and shook his head as he looked at the happy Moonlit Black Cats. For the Moonlit Black Cats, killing a boss was something worth celebrating. However, for Wu Yan, this level of opponent was worthy of being called a game. They didn't even give him a sense of danger. If he could do this when he faced the Beast King, he would have celebrated. Yen. You're amazing. Xian jumped and was about to throw herself at Wu Yan when a hand reached out and pressed her face. I say, didn't you suspect that I relied on luck to beat the boss? Wu Yan shook his head in an amused manner. I haven't seen it with my own eyes yet, Xian didn't mind Wu Yan's rejection of her intimacy. Her face was still full of joy. That's a boss. A boss that's higher level than you was defeated by you in just a few moves. The national idol's strength isn't just for show. There's no use trying to please me. Wu Yan rolled his eyes at Xian and looked at Sachi and Suda, who were also excited. He said helplessly, "Why are you all so excited? The reward for killing the boss is mine. We didn't form a party, so you guys didn't get anything. Is there a need to be like this?" Wu Yan's words didn't dampen the excitement of the moonlit black cats. In fact, they got even more excited. Sachi stepped forward and she continued with a smile. "We didn't get any rewards for killing the boss, but after the mission was completed, we all got rewards. Not only did we get EXP, money, we also got some equipment and items." Wu Yan flinched. He noticed that other than the reward for killing the boss, the previous mission also notified him that he had completed it. It even automatically submitted the completed mission and gave him a reward. Missions that don't need to be submitted? That's not bad either. At least I don't have to run around. The experience reward is pretty good too. It saves me a whole day of leveling up. The money is just a so-so. Hearing this, the members of the moonlit black cats looked at each other with strange expressions, and their gazes towards Wu Yan became unfriendly. After all, the EXP reward saved Wu Yan a day of leveling, which was equivalent to a week for them. The so-called sloppy EXP reward was probably equivalent to a week's worth of hard work. Comparing oneself to others, one would be angered to death. Shireen opened her personal list and looked at her gains with interest. Then, she said coldly, "You're right, Shireen. By the way, how are we going to go back?" The scene suddenly fell silent. Shireen's hand paused in the middle of scrolling through the list. She stole a glance at everyone, and when she saw their stiff faces, the corner of her mouth twitched. "Don't tell me, you don't know." Everyone nodded in tacit understanding and stopped talking. The scene fell into a strange silence. Wu Yan blinked his lips, as if he wanted to say something to cheer them up. But in the end, he gave up and could only helplessly look away. As he looked away, he saw the cave where the boss was lying in. He was startled for a moment before his eyes lit up. "Why don't we take a look inside the cave?" Cave. The moonlit black cats collectively turned to look at the cave. Sachi tilted her head and said, "Speaking of which, why is the boss at the entrance of the cave and not inside?" Hearing Sachi's words, everyone immediately perked up. If something was out of the ordinary, then there must be a demon behind it. No one would like to sleep in the open air. If they didn't sleep in a cave, then there must be something inside the cave. Wu Yan looked at the cave in front of him and rubbed his chin. "It seems that if we want to leave this place, we can only place our hopes in this cave." Indeed, this forest was not very big. Although it was called a forest, it was actually more like a forest. Along the way, the group of 7 merely followed the path and arrived at this mountain cave. Around the mountain cave, other than the path that they had taken at the beginning, the other 3 directions were all stone walls. Clearly, this cave is the end of the map. "Let's go in and take a look." Seeing everyone's hesitation, Wu Yan immediately made a decision. He took the lead and walked towards the cave. The moonlit black cats had no choice but to follow. Originally, the moonlit black cats thought that there would be some other strange things in the cave. After all, they had already experienced the maze, the forest, the legless civet cat, and the lion man boss, so they were especially vigilant when walking. What they didn't expect was that the cave wasn't that big. Less than 30 seconds after they entered the cave, the end of the cave appeared in front of them. The 7 of them stopped in their tracks and looked ahead. There was a strange look in their eyes. Because at the end of the cave, there was a thin crystal and a small ball floating in the air. "What's that?" Xian blinked and looked at the 2 items floating in the air. She was about to walk up to them when she stopped and looked at Wu Yan. "You go." "Me?" Wu Yan looked at Xian with surprise. "Are you scared?" "Scared? Who's scared?" Xian pouted in dissatisfaction. "Those things are obviously some kind of item." Perhaps these are the true rewards of this unique quest. Since you were the one who killed the boss, we wouldn't have been able to complete this quest without you. Naturally, you should be the one to receive the rewards. Xian turned to Sutta and said mischievously, "Isn't that right, President?" Sutta was amused by Xian's mischievous look. He smiled and nodded solemnly. "Yes. Without you, we wouldn't have been able to complete this mission. These rewards should be yours." But Wu Yan frowned. "The one who accepted the mission is Sachi, not me, big brother, just take it." Sachi chuckled. "The mission reward is already a big reward for us. We didn't help much this time, it was you who helped us, so don't reject it." Wu Yan looked around at the moonlit black cats. He didn't see any dissatisfaction on their faces, so he slowly nodded. "Okay." The members of the moonlit black cats tapped on the air, and a trading window appeared in front of them. There were some precious items and a lot of COR coins on it. "These are for you." Wu Yan smiled. He didn't give them a chance to speak and said overbearingly, "If you refuse, then don't blame me for refusing." The 6 members of the moonlit black cats were speechless. They could only confirm it a little, but there was a slight smile on their faces. In this world of SAO, in order to survive, humans basically don't hide their ugly side. Greed, jealousy, resentment. It can be said that for some good items and equipment, some people would even betray their companions, just to have more chips to survive. Things like this, where people didn't fight for the things that were really precious, instead, they pushed each other away and gave in to each other. It was really rare in this dog-eat-dog world. One has to say, this kind of scene is a genuine exchange of hearts. That's why the moonlit black cats are very happy. At least they know that Wu Yan didn't treat them as mere passers-by. Wu Yan walked in front of the crystal and the orb. He stopped and grabbed the crystal. He checked the information on the crystal. Wu Yan flinched when he saw the information. Then, he became ecstatic. Chapter 634. As someone who came from another world and possesses unimaginable power, there are many things in SAO that Wu Yan doesn't care about at all. For example, although equipment is powerful, in Wu Yan's eyes, it's just something that can restore some of his combat power in the real world. As for items, no matter how magical they are, they can't compare to the items in the system. As for money, it's just a bunch of numbers. Therefore, in the eyes of others, everything Wu Yan got in SAO for a month is undoubtedly envied by other players, but in Wu Yan's eyes, it's nothing. In other words, Wu Yan's vision is extraordinarily high. The members of Moonlit Black Cats also know that Wu Yan's vision is very high, but they don't know the reason. They thought it's because he's an expert, but in any case, Wu Yan's vision is indeed very high, at least in SAO. Now, this small piece of crystal made Wu Yan, who has always had high standards and never showed any change in expression when he received something, to reveal a pleasantly surprised expression. It's not hard to imagine that this thing is not some kind of incomparably precious item, or it's just the right item for the person in question. Therefore, seeing Wu Yan's reaction, the members of Moonlit Black Cats couldn't help but feel a little curious. Xian, who has the least patience and curiosity, was the first to ask. "Yan, what is that?" Hearing Xian's question, Wu Yan couldn't help but laugh. He raised the crystal in his hand, and the next moment, the crystal suddenly changed. A shadow flashed across the surface of the crystal, and then a small person with 2 pairs of wings and the size of a palm emerged from the crystal. Under everyone's gaze, the little person moved, flapped the 2 pairs of wings on her back, then flew out of the crystal, turned in midair, and landed on Wu Yan's shoulder. At this time, everyone could see the full appearance of the little person clearly. Her body was like a girl with a perfect figure, but her whole body was in the shape of light, as if she was covered by a layer of light. One could faintly see her naked body. Her face was also not very clear, but it gave people a feeling that she was definitely not ordinary. She's just like the legendary elves. What is this? 6 pairs of eyes suddenly gathered in front of the elves, staring at her with curiosity. Sachi and Xian even showed a loving expression. they seem to like this little elves very much. Wu Yan also curiously touched the elves on his shoulder, but it's a pity that the elves didn't respond to Wu Yan's touch at all. She didn't move at all under the gaze of so many people, and she just stayed motionless on Wu Yan's shoulder. Those who didn't know better would think that she's just a decoration. But Wu Yan knew that this elves didn't have any intelligence, just like a puppet, so naturally, she wouldn't respond to other people's actions. What is this? Xian couldn't wait to ask. She put her hands together and put them in front of her chest, showing a loving expression. She's so beautiful, so cute. Hearing this, Wu Yan smiled and said, she's a tamed demon. Tamed demon? Everyone was stunned. Yes. Tamed demon. Wu Yan weighed the crystal in his hand. This is a tamed demon crystal, as the name suggests. The player who owns it will obtain a tamed demon, and this elves is the tamed demon in the tamed demon crystal. Tamed demon. Xian stared at the elves on Wu Yan's shoulder. She said with some regret, I shouldn't have let you have it. Wu Yan rolled his eyes and ignored Xian. He knew that Xian didn't covet the tamed demon's convenience. She just thought that the elves are cute, just like a doll. Wu Yan turned his head and glanced at the elves on his shoulder, the corner of his mouth hooked up into a satisfied smile. In SAO, tamed demons aren't cheap pets like in other online games. Tamed demons are very precious. If a player is unlucky, they won't even get a tamed demon, because tamed demons are very important in SAO. Some tamed demons could help players fight, some could buff players, and some could restore players' HP. In this world where one could die at any time, having the help of a tamed demon would be a huge help. Perhaps, the players could not even compare to those tamed demons. Because of this, once a player has a tamed demon, that player will be called a tamed tamer. It's a very precious class. Of course, there were good and bad tamed monsters. Some tamed monsters were more useful than players. Naturally, there were also some tamed monsters that were less useful than players. Therefore, to have a tamed monster, one needed luck. To have a powerful tamed monster, one needed even more luck. It has to be said that Wu Yan's luck is really good. Let's not talk about the fact that there might not even be a tamed demon in SAO's second floor yet. This elven sprite is quite useful. This elven sprite is a healing tamed demon. When its master is fighting, it can't help each other, but it can restore players' HP. With such a healing fairy, not only would he be able to save a lot of precious recovery tools, but he would also be able to extend the duration of his battle. It could even save his life during crucial moments. To players, such a healing fairy would be extremely helpful. Not to mention, Wu Yan's healing fairy is OP. It can restore 20% of its master's HP every minute. In other words, even if the elven sprite only has 1 HP left, it can be restored to full in 5 minutes, and there's no need to waste recovery items. If other players want to restore their HP to full, they have to sit for at least half a day. Moreover, if the enemy that Wu Yan is fighting against can't deal more than 20% of Wu Yan's HP in 1 minute, then no matter how strong they are, they can only be prepared to be killed by Wu Yan. With the healing fairy, Wu Yan's combat power didn't change, and his actual strength didn't change either. However, his overall strength has increased by at least 10 times. Wu Yan is already as strong as a UG, and with the help of the healing fairy, he's equivalent to half an immortal superplayer. In the future, he will definitely become a nightmare in the eyes of his enemies. It seems that there's no need to go out in the wild anymore. With the healing fairy, he might as well go straight to the labyrinth area. After making up his mind, Wu Yan looked at the orb again, carefully checked its information, and then smiled. Equipping the healing fairy crystal on his accessory bar is one of the effects of this tamed magic crystal. In the future, he can summon the healing fairy with just a thought. Then, another crystal appeared in Wu Yan's hand, but this wasn't the tamed magic crystal, but the transfer crystal that transported Wu Yan and the others here. In the void, the floating orbs suddenly swayed, and with a rise and fall, it suddenly flew towards the transfer crystal and fused with it. Almost at the same time, Wu Yan discovered that the transfer crystal can be used again. We can finally leave this place. Knowing that the teleportation crystal could be used, the members of the Moonlit Black Cats were overjoyed. Even Sachi couldn't help but smile. Although the mission this time had brought them a lot of benefits, the environment was just too bad, and it felt like torture. If possible, they didn't want to stay here any longer. It's a pity that it can only be used once, if only it could be used forever. Wu Yan said with some regret, this kind of mass transfer crystal's effect might be surprisingly good. Wu Yan didn't leave immediately. He looked at the Moonlit Black Cats with a grin. Since we're here, we might as well clear this forest once. Thus, the monsters in the forest welcomed the most inhumane day. Chapter 635. Aincrad, second floor, inside a certain hotel, many players chatted with each other, drinking and eating extravagantly from the hotel's food. Their voices filled the entire hotel, making it seem like a bar in the real world. The topics these people were discussing were either about which guild was doing pioneering work in the wilderness, which team, or which player was lucky enough to obtain a precious item or equipment. While they were talking, their voices carried traces of envy and anger. It was obvious that they did not have a good impression of the people they were talking about. Of course, the strength of a guild was generally stronger than that of an individual or a group. It was fine for guilds with a small number of members. But now, the strength of individual guilds had developed to a certain extent and they had a large number of members. In order to improve the strength of the guild, the most important thing was to prepare for guild activities and explore new territories. These are things that need to be done through monsters or quest NPCs. As a result, the wild had basically been occupied by a few guilds. Using the excuse that no one was allowed to disturb the guild's activities, these guilds had circled some of the wild's leveling spots into their own leveling areas. This caused idle players, parties, and even weak guilds to be chased away as soon as they stepped out of the wild. Facing these guilds, the weaker players don't dare to voice their anger. They have no choice but to run back to town. Although this situation will improve in 2 or 3 days when the guilds move to higher leveled areas, it's unavoidable for the players to be dissatisfied. This is what led to the current situation in the hotel. As for the players who were lucky enough to get good items and equipment, their reason for being dissatisfied is more direct. They're jealous and envious. Of course, it was a different story for some powerful players. Kirito, for example, had already skipped the leveling spots set up by the guilds and headed straight for the high-level monsters. Leveling up in such a place gave off the feeling of a master's boldness. While the players in the inn were venting their frustrations, a group of 7 people suddenly appeared at the location where Wu Yan and the Moonlit Black Cats disappeared from. The players in the inn jumped in fright when they saw this group of 7 people. They stood there in a daze with shock written all over their faces. It was not that they had never seen a teleportation crystal being used before, but generally, the teleportation crystal was set at a certain location. For example, the teleportation crystal in this town was set at the side of the fountain on the 2nd floor. Anyone who used a teleportation crystal that could teleport to this town would be teleported there without exception. They had never heard of anyone using a teleportation crystal to teleport to a hotel. Could it be that something went wrong? Unlike the players who widened their eyes in shock, Wu Yan's group didn't have much of a change in expression. They even let out a sigh of relief when they saw that they're in a hotel. We're finally back. Xian stretched her back and waved weakly at Sachi. Sachi, don't randomly pick NPCs on the road. I don't want to do this kind of quest again. Hearing Xian's words, the players in the hotel suddenly understood. So it's because of the quest. Sachi lowered her head in embarrassment. I won't do it again, don't listen to her nonsense. Wu Yan glared at Xian. So many people want a quest but can't find one. Now that there's one in front of you, you don't want it? Be careful of other players. It's better to be slapped to death than to die of boredom in that damned place. Xian snorted and lay down on the table. At this time, the players in the hotel finally noticed Wu Yan. Many of them cried out in surprise. Black coat, black great sword, it's Wu Yan. What? Wu Yan? The Wu Yan who soloed the first floor's boss and cleared the stage. No way. It's really him? It's true. It's really him. There's no mistaking his attire. It doesn't make sense. Why would he appear here? Shouldn't a strong player like him be exploring the wilderness? Maybe he was forced to come back by those guilds. Bah. Those guilds want to force him back. He's someone who can solo a floor's boss. So what if he soloed a floor's boss? He's still one person, right? He can only retreat when faced with a large number of guilds. That's impossible. Those guilds can't wait to befriend such a strong player and recruit him into their guild. They won't offend him, that's true. When can I solo a floor's boss? Let's see if those guilds dare to be so arrogant. You? Let's think about how to beat the wild pheasants to critical health first. The topic that was originally directed at the guild was now directed at Wu Yan. The uproar from the surrounding resounded throughout the entire hotel, causing the group of 7 who just returned to the hotel to feel their heads swell up, giving them a headache. Looking at the people around him pointing at him, he frowned. Although these people no longer have the hatred and jealousy they had before, instead, there is some admiration in their eyes. However, he still felt uncomfortable. He felt like a monkey in a zoo, being surrounded by people. I'm going back to my room. Wu Yan turned around and said to the moonlit black cats. Without waiting for their reply, he went up the stairs to the second floor. The moonlit black cats wanted to say something, but Wu Yan had already disappeared down the stairs. They could only shut their mouths. However, the surrounding players noticed them. Being able to be together with the person who currently has the chance to become the strongest player is enough to cause a lot of discussion. Under everyone's gaze and guidance, other than the timid Sachi, the rest of the moonlit black cats couldn't help but puff out their chests. They were still students in the real world. Being the center of attention was something to be proud of. Of course, it had to be in a good way. But because of this, the members of the moonlit black cats were targeted by someone else, night, in a certain room in the inn. Wu Yan changed into casual clothes and put away all of his equipment. He then laid down on the bed and ate the delicious food he made himself. He enjoyed this moment of silence. This is one of the benefits of the game. As long as you set the settings, you don't have to worry about anything. For example, the room in the inn looks like it's made of wood, but once the door is closed, all sounds outside will be isolated. There's no need to worry about the soundproofing. It's extremely convenient. However, some human-like sounds can be clearly heard, such as knocking on the door. 2 knocks came from the door, followed by Sachi's voice. "Brother, are you there? Is it Sachi?" Wu Yan stopped eating. "Come in." With Wu Yan's permission, Sachi easily opened the door and walked in. To Wu Yan's surprise, Sachi had a very tired expression on her face, just like the exhausted Takitsubu Riku. "Sachi, what's wrong?" Wu Yan tilted his head in confusion. "How did you end up like this?" Sachi rolled her eyes at Wu Yan, something she rarely did. "It's all because of you, brother, because of me?" "That's right," Sachi said tiredly. "Big brother, you're famous now. Many guilds and players want to meet you, but your friends list has already been set to not accept requests, so they can't do anything about it. But when they saw us together with you today, those who want to meet you came looking for us instead." Sachi looked like she was about to cry. "Since this afternoon, there have been a lot of friend requests coming to us. They want us to be their middleman so they can meet you. I'm fine, but the president is the one who's sad. His friend requests are coming faster than clicking. He's so tired that he's lying on the ground." Wu Yan was speechless. Chapter 636. Currently, Aincrad has only cleared the first floor. The players are still exploring the second floor. SAO has only been running for a month. It's a typical early stage of the game. In the early stages of the game, there aren't many players that can become famous. Even if there are, it's usually a guild or a strong party. So far, Wu Yan is the only player who can make a name for himself. For those who haven't seen the strength of a level boss, or even those who haven't even seen a wild boss, they wouldn't be able to understand how terrifying this feat is. Even if they know that Wu Yan is strong, they wouldn't be able to comprehend the extent of his strength. However, those who have come into contact with the boss and those who know how strong the boss is would know how terrifying Wu Yan is to be able to defeat the boss in a one-on-one duel. No matter what, once a player becomes famous, he's bound to be harassed. Wu Yan knew this would happen, that's why he rejected friend requests from strangers. So far, he only has 6 members of the Moonlit Black Cats in his friend list. Those who want to meet Wu Yan are disappointed. Similarly, the cloaked woman who wanted to add Wu Yan as a friend was rejected. Now that Wu Yan has his family and friends group, it's understandable that those who want to meet Wu Yan would try to befriend him through his family and friends group. Wu Yan smiled sheepishly as he scratched his cheeks in embarrassment. "I'm sorry," Wu Yan asked in a puzzled tone. "Then why don't you just reject their friend requests? Why do you have to spend so much effort to deal with them?" "It's the guild master's idea," Sachi explained to Wu Yan. "The guild master said that those who want to meet you are all big shots. They're either guild masters or powerful leaders. It's good for our guild's development to get in touch with them." Wu Yan immediately understood. He shook his head and laughed. "In that case, you can't blame me for everything that happened to you. One of you was willing to be beaten, and the other was willing to be beaten. You should thank me for giving you such an opportunity, but this is really tiring." Sachi yawned and rubbed her eyes. "Then, big brother, do you want to meet them?" "I don't want it even if you beat me to death." Wu Yan hurriedly waved his hand and shook his head. What a joke. Just dealing with the friend requests was enough to tire Sachi out. If he had to meet them one by one, even if he had several lives, it would not be enough. Sachi seemed to know that this was impossible and couldn't help but feel pity. That's really a pity for those who personally came to the hotel to look for brother. They even came to the hotel. Wu Yan couldn't stay calm anymore. "Then won't I be drowned by the crowd when I go out tomorrow?" "I won't." Sachi shook her head and said, "It was supposed to be like this, but ever since a guild leader called Heathcliff came, those who surrounded the hotel were all chased away by his guild members." "That's good." Wu Yan sighed in relief. "Then I really have to thank Heathcliff." Wu Yan's tone suddenly stiffened. He turned his head and looked at Sachi. "Sachi, who did you say?" "Say it again." "That. Heathcliff." Sachi frowned her beautiful eyebrows. "I heard that he's the leader of a new guild called Knights of the Blood. There aren't many members in the guild, but they are all elites. They're quite famous among all the guilds, the leader of Knights of the Blood, Heathcliff." Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and smiled. "That's interesting." Wu Yan stood up and walked towards the door. Sachi hurriedly shouted, "Brother, where are you going?" "I'm going to meet that Heathcliff." Wu Yan's figure disappeared from the room as he spoke. Downstairs in the hotel, which was originally crowded with people, was now much less crowded than before. A group of players wearing white clothes with red edges surrounded the scene. They stood around as if they were guarding something. Occasionally, some of them would even chase away the players who tried to enter. They looked like royal guards, full of style. Among these people, there was only one middle-aged man in his 30s to 40s. He was dressed in a red night suit and was sipping from a glass of wine on the table in a leisurely manner. Obviously, he was the leader of these people. He was none other than Heathcliff himself. Wu Yan noticed him as soon as he came down the stairs. Likewise, Heathcliff also noticed Wu Yan. When their eyes met, an invisible pressure spread throughout the room. The Knights of Blood noticed someone coming down from the second floor. They originally wanted to chase the person away out of habit, but when the pressure came out, all of them froze on the spot. Wu Yan glanced at everyone before he looked at Heathcliff. His eyes flashed with a subtle glint. Others might think that this person is just a powerful guild leader, but Wu Yan, who is familiar with the original game, knows that this person isn't Heathcliff. His real name is Kayaba Akihiko. That's right. Kayaba Akihiko. The one who created SAO. Kayaba Akihiko, the creator of the death game. Even Wu Yan couldn't help but be a little interested in this man who brought about a revolution to the world. Of course, it's just a little bit. Wu Yan has seen a lot of heaven-defying characters in the game, and Kayaba Akihiko is only at the bottom of the list. On the other hand, Kayaba Akihiko, whose game ID is Heathcliff, was also observing the person standing on the stairs. This so-called person might be the strongest player in the game, and his eyes flashed with a strong interest. Heathcliff could feel that his subordinates were shocked by this person, which surprised him a little. After all, his subordinates have seen a lot of powerful people, and yet they still reacted like this. This is enough to prove that Wu Yan is not an ordinary person. Heathcliff raised his head and opened his mouth, but when he was about to say something, he was stunned. Because the person in front of him turned around and went back upstairs. Seeing that Wu Yan was about to disappear at the top of the stairs, Heathcliff quickly said, "Please wait for a moment." Wu Yan stopped and said, "What's the matter?" Heathcliff choked when he heard Wu Yan's indifferent tone. He frowned a little. This was the first time he was treated like a passerby by someone. "Your Excellency." Heathcliff raised the cup in his hand and smiled politely. "Since you're here, why don't you have a drink with me?" "No need." Wu Yan slowly shook his head. "I'm just here to see what kind of person has the ability to chase away those annoying fellows." "Oh?" Heathcliff nodded nonchalantly and said, "Then, did I disappoint your Excellency?" "Disappoint? Disappoint?" Wu Yan smirked and looked at Heathcliff meaningfully. He then looked at the members of Knights of the Blood. "We'll talk about this again when you brought your guild to the top of Sao. After that, Wu Yan ignored Heathcliff and went back upstairs alone. Heathcliff narrowed his eyes and chuckled. "We'll meet again one day." The next day, Wu Yan looked up at the huge stone tower. He touched the heaven gazer on his back and licked his lips. Looking at the staircase leading to the next level, Wu Yan stepped inside without hesitation. Half a day later, a shocking piece of news spread throughout the entire second floor. The second floor was cleared. It's only been a day since the first floor was cleared. Chapter 637. Sao. It's been almost a year since Aincrad's first and second floors were cleared. 1 year is neither too long nor too short, but for the players living in Sao, this year is longer than any other year in the past, and it's infinitely long. A lot of things happened in this year, so much so that even the players living in Sao didn't know about it. Of course, that's only limited to the real world. In Sao, due to the special nature of this world, some information can be passed around freely. The most eye-catching thing is naturally the progress of Aincrad's raid. After clearing the first and second floors, the progress of Sao's raid was completely reversed. Players who were stuck on the first floor for an entire month didn't experience it again. This is because clearing the first and second floors made the players living in Sao realize that it's possible to raid this game. In addition, a year ago, Aincrad's second floor was cleared in a single day, which gave the players a lot of hope. In the following year, all the players with a little bit of ambition put in a lot of effort to raid Aincrad. They were no longer as muddle-headed as they were in the first floor. As a result, the raid progress has greatly increased. It took a month to clear the first floor, and a day to clear the second floor. But in this year, the players have already reached the 55th floor, which is more than half of Aincrad's floors. Currently, the players and guilds who were at the front lines of the game had already formed a group of clearers, aiming to reach the top floor of Aincrad and continue to fight on the highest floor of Aincrad. Although the clearers only make up a few hundred of the thousands of players in Sao, their level and equipment are far superior to the average player. Most of the credit for clearing Aincrad's 55th floor in a year is due to them. Among them, the clearers are divided into 5 factions. The first faction is Furinkazan. Their guild leader is Klein. It's a very average guild. It's not very outstanding, and it's not as unscrupulous as other guilds. However, it's a highly praised guild. Even if its performance is average, it's definitely one of the top guilds in Sao. The second faction is Divine Dragon Alliance. Compared to Furinkazan, their behavior is much worse. They're willing to do anything to clear Aincrad's floors, even if they hurt players and become orange players. Because of this, the position of their leader has been changed frequently. Although it's currently unknown, there's no doubt about their strength. They even have the second most members in Sao. The third faction was the Knights of the Blood. Their leader was Heathcliff, recognized as the strongest guild in Aincrad. They didn't have a lot of members, but almost all of them were elites. Their vice president was Asuna, and their leader was Heathcliff. One could easily imagine the strength of the Knights of the Blood. As for the fourth faction, it's a bit surprising. The first three factions are exactly the same as the original game, but the fourth faction isn't in the original game. Moonlit Black Cats. Their leader, Keita. In the past year, thanks to the help of a certain someone and the tireless efforts of the Moonlit Black Cats, a small guild with only 6 members has become one of the top 5 guilds in Sao. Although they have the least number of members among the clearers, every one of them is quite strong. Moreover, the members of Moonlit Black Cats always had the best equipment in the clearers. Even though they were the weakest among the clearers, they weren't any weaker than Divine Dragon Alliance and Furinkazan. Their equipment was the best among the clearers. As for why the Moonlit Black Cats were able to have the newest and best equipment at all times, the main culprit was naturally a certain bug-like player's contribution. Finally, the last faction of the clearers, which is also the weakest faction, is the solo player faction. There are only 2 players in this faction. One is called Agile, the owner of an item house. He's a careful businessman who has secretly contributed a lot to nurturing middle-level players. Although he's not a member of any guild, he's strong enough to rival the clearers. The other person is Kirito. Thanks to a certain someone, Kirito didn't get ostracized on the first floor like the original work, and he didn't get involved with the Moonlit Black Cats, which caused him to suffer a severe psychological blow. However, Kirito seemed to be used to being a lone wolf. Even though he didn't have as few friends as the original work, he almost never teamed up with anyone. Still, no one doubted his strength, and there wasn't a single player who didn't know the name Black Swordsman. Originally, there was another faction in the clearers, the Army. It's the largest guild with the most members, and its strength isn't inferior to any of the clearers. However, due to the heavy casualties they suffered in the 25th floor, the army withdrew from the clearers. Although they're still active in the front lines, they're not as active as before. Thanks to the hard work of the clearers and the clearers, 2/3 of the 55th floor of Aincrad were cleared by them. They contributed a lot to the clearers, and they're idols among the clearers. But the remaining 1/3 of the 55th floor of Aincrad was cleared by one person. That's right. One person. And that person is none other than Wu Yen. If the clearers are the idols of the clearers, then Wu Yen is the god in the eyes of the clearers and the clearers. He's the only one who managed to clear 1/3 of the clearers in a year's time. Who else can do that? Don't even talk about who can do it, even if the clearers were to compare, none of them would be able to do it. He never appeared in the eyes of the clearers, and even the intelligence merchants have a hard time finding him. It's said that after clearing a floor, he would immediately go to the labyrinth area of that floor. He never leveled up in the wild, and even if he did, he would only appear in the wild when he was fighting the wild boss. This is the only time a lucky player would be able to track him down. There are also people who have seen him in towns and cities. However, towns and cities are filled with crooks and honest folk. Most of the time, a single similarity would cause a ruckus. Thus, not many people would believe a sighting in a town or city. This added a mysterious aura to this godlike existence. In Sao, 99 out of 100 players would say Wu Yen is the most popular player among the female players, and the remaining one would say that he's the one who's jealous of Wu Yen. After all, a single person can play the same role as the clearers. In this game world where players are waiting to be saved, it's natural that he's a godlike existence. A year ago, Wu Yen was only qualified to be the strongest clearers in the game, but now, there's no doubt that he's the strongest clearers. Because everyone who saw Wu Yen saw the elf sitting on his shoulder, so the clearers gave Wu Yen such a title, Fey Swordsman. Chapter 638. Everyone knew that the legendary Fey Swordsman was so powerful that he was able to clear 1/3 of Aincrad's 55 floors by himself. However, they didn't know that the legendary Fey swordsman they were talking about almost tore a piece of flesh out of their hearts when he heard their praises. With Wu Yan's strength, if he could clear so many floors by himself with a Fey swordsman, would it be difficult for him to clear 2/3 of the floors? No. It's not difficult at all. Wu Yan is strong enough to solo the boss, and he's also strong enough to dominate the labyrinth. It's only a matter of time for him to clear 2/3 of the floors, but it's precisely because of this that it's a big problem. After all, he's alone and he can only rely on himself to run around in the labyrinth. Naturally, he can only rely on himself to find the boss's room. There are so many people in the clearers, and Wu Yan might have to face them all together. However, it's not unreasonable to say that there's strength in numbers. At the very least, when it comes to finding the boss's room, the party with more people would have a huge advantage. Because of this, when Wu Yan was looking for the boss's room, the clearers would have already entered the boss's room. Then, not long after, the news of clearing the floor would reach Wu Yan's ears. While he was looking for dessert with great difficulty, someone else had eaten it. What kind of feeling was this? Wu Yan doesn't know about other people's feelings, but Wu Yan knows that he's in a bad mood. In fact, Wu Yan could have asked the moonlit black cats to notify him when they found the boss, and it would have saved him a lot of trouble. Kato wouldn't have refused, but Wu Yan is a stubborn person. If he's determined to clear the floor by himself, he's going to do it all by himself. Moreover, doing this is no different from kill-stealing. Wu Yan disdained to do such a thing. Thus, while others are immersed in the worship of Wu Yan's achievements, Wu Yan himself sees it as a disgrace. To sum it up, his personality was acting up. Why didn't he think about it? If he didn't have a healing fairy, would he dare to rush into the labyrinth every time he went up a new floor? Most likely, he would have to take some time to use recovery tools, which would greatly reduce his leveling speed. If that were to happen, his battle record would be even worse. After all, the monsters in the labyrinth did not come alone. Instead, they came in large groups. A single person's strength was ultimately limited. Unless the level gap was too large, it was impossible to guarantee that he would not be attacked by a group of monsters. That being said, Wu Yan wasn't willing to be the underdog. Every time he got up early in the morning and groped around in the labyrinth area, he wanted to find the boss room one step ahead of the clearers and slay it to clear the 55th floor of Aincrad. Subconsciously, Wu Yan wanted to spar with the clearers. It's for the sake of fun. Otherwise, he'd just be killing monsters all day long. It's fine if it's a short period of time, but if it's a long period of time, it's not that fun anymore. In a way, the clearers can be considered as Wu Yan's competitor. Of course, the only person who can treat the clearers as his competitor is Wu Yan, whether it's in terms of strength or mentality. Currently, it's been about 2 to 3 days since the 54th floor was cleared and the clearers reached the 55th floor. In these 2 to 3 days, even the clearers couldn't reach the labyrinth area. There are a lot of wild monsters on the way from the town to the labyrinth area. Only Wu Yan can ignore them and go straight to the labyrinth area. This is one of the benefits of being a solo player. He doesn't need to worry about the team's progress. In the labyrinth area, Wu Yan is the only one moving around. In these 2 to 3 days, Wu Yan killed the monsters in the labyrinth area twice or thrice, but he still couldn't find the boss room. It's the same today. He returned empty-handed. If he can find the boss room, then Wu Yan is confident that he can clear the floor. Only Onii-san can have such confidence. Sachi sent such a sentence in the mail, which made Wu Yan smile proudly. It's true, even the clearers don't dare to boast that they have absolute confidence in clearing the floor. Other than the clearers, there's no one else who can say such a thing. It's a pity that I can't find it. After feeling proud for a while, Wu Yan felt helpless again. Labyrinth area, is it the path or the boss room that got lost? Can't you just let me find it? Every floor's boss room isn't set in the same place, otherwise, Onii-san, you would be the only one playing the game in SAO. Sachi said in the mail. It's obvious that she trusts Wu Yan a lot. If there's anyone who knows Wu Yan the best, moonlit black cats wouldn't dare to say they're the best. After all, the only people who are close to Wu Yan are the 6 founding members of moonlit black cats. By the way, Onii-san, do you know about today's event? Today's event? Wu Yan looked at the mail in front of him, his eyes narrowed. Are you talking about the special boss that will only appear tonight? The special boss that can drop resurrection items. Yeah. Sachi was a bit envious when she sent the email. In SAO, players who die once can't be resurrected, and as long as they die once, they will die in the real world as well. However, the special boss that appeared tonight can drop items that can revive players. If we can have it, it's like having an extra life in our hands. Oni-san, do you think the resurrection items information is real? It's reasonable for Sachi to ask that question. When a player dies, their body in the real world will also die, so can this resurrection item really resurrect them in the real world? Who would believe it if he told them? Wu Yan is familiar with the original work, so of course he believes it. He knows that the resurrection item can only resurrect players who died within 10 seconds. In other words, when a player dies in SAO, there's a 10-second buffer before the helmet will destroy the player's brain. If a player uses the resurrection item to resurrect within 10 seconds, their body in the real world won't be attacked by the helmet. Wu Yan knows this, but he can't explain it to Sachi. He can only vaguely remind her. Since there's such an event, the information shouldn't be fake. Maybe when a player dies, the helmet will destroy the player's brain, and during that time, the resurrection item should be effective. Oni-san, you mean, Wu Yan smirked. The information about the resurrection item should be real, but there must be conditions for resurrection. For example, the item can only be used within a certain period of time after the player's death, and it won't be effective if it expires. That makes sense. Well, in any case, it's better to believe it than not. It's necessary to take a look. So, Oni-san, are you going to look for the special boss? Wu Yan didn't answer Sachi's question. Instead, he asked a question. Sachi, have you found the location of the special boss? Yes, we have. According to the information, the special boss will appear in the 35th floor of the Forest of Wandering. The guild leader has already set off with his men. Oh. The moonlit black cats have set off. Then the other guilds should be there as well, right? Opening his interface, Wu Yan pulled up the skill bar. Looking at one of the skills, a smile appeared on his face. Looks like I'll have to meet the clearers. Chapter 639. Aincrad's 35th floor, Forest of Wandering. It said that the special boss that will only appear tonight will drop a resurrection item. A resurrection item is undoubtedly a very rare item. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's the rarest item in the game. Because after tonight, the special boss won't appear again. So, you can either kill the special boss tonight and get a resurrection item, or you can only get one resurrection item at most. Of course, such an item is extremely rare. What's more, in SAO, the most important thing isn't equipment or money, it's life. Having a resurrection item in hand is equivalent to having a new life. Plus, you can only get one resurrection item at most, so no one wouldn't want such a precious item. Therefore, after the news spread, a large number of players in Aincrad's 35th floor, Forest of Wandering, rushed to this place. Most of these players are members of the clearers. They're the fastest to get information about the special boss. While other players are still waiting for news, they've already arrived at Forest of Wandering. In the original work, Kirito came to the Forest of Wandering to revive Sachi, Furinkazan, and Divine Dragon Alliance, who followed Furinkazan, followed by Furinkazan. But here, the clearers are the only ones who got information about the special boss. In other words, the original plot has changed a little. It's not hard to understand. In the original work, Kirito was the one who deduced the location of the special boss and came here. In order to resurrect Sachi, he had to go all out and fight the special boss alone. He didn't want the resurrection item to fall into the hands of others. But this time, Kirito's relationship with Sachi isn't as close as in the original work. At most, they're just comrades in the front line. They've only met 2 or 3 times, and Sachi didn't die, so Kirito didn't care about the resurrection item as much as in the original work. Since Kirito relaxed, the others naturally took the opportunity to chase after him. And so, the entire clearers came to Forest of Wandering to fight for the resurrection item. At the entrance of the Forest of Wandering, the players split up and occupied the four corners. The easternmost was Elements, who were all dressed in red armor and had all sorts of weapons. Standing at the front was Klein. There were more than 10 Elements members here. Although there weren't many of them, their aura was strong and they should be able to deal with this situation. To the west of Furinkazan was the Divine Dragon Alliance. They didn't have a leader and they had all sorts of equipment. They were the only guild with uneven equipment. Moreover, every member had a sinister smile on their face. It was obvious that they weren't good people. The first impression they gave was definitely negative. Next to the Divine Dragon Alliance was the Moonlit Black Cats. Their leader was Sutta. Aside from the 3 male elders, the rest were unfamiliar faces. Sachi and Xian didn't come. As players, they weren't that strong. At the very least, they couldn't stand on the front lines. Sachi usually handled the affairs of the Moonlit Black Cats. Xian, on the other hand, became a professional potioneer. The two didn't participate in battles, but they were relatively safe. Unlike Furinkazan, the members of Moonlit Black Cats didn't wear the same equipment as Furinkazan. However, their equipment isn't ordinary. Sutta and company used their relationship with Wu Yen to buy the latest equipment from him at a low price. Since Wu Yen always stood at the top of the players, he always went to the labyrinth to level up. The equipment he got was also the best. He didn't need that much equipment, so it was normal for Sutta and the others to help him get rid of it. It's just that the buyer was the Moonlit Black Cats themselves. As for the people standing at the westernmost part of the Forest of Wandering, they were all members of the Knights of Blood Oath. They were all wearing white uniforms with red edges, outer armor, and a cape on both shoulders. They didn't have that many people, only a dozen or so. It was about the same as Furinkazan and Moonlit Black Cats. Other than the Divine Dragon Alliance, the other 3 guilds didn't send that many people. A special boss was still a boss. It was much stronger than a wild boss. Even if it was on the 35th floor, no one would believe that it only had the strength of a 35th floor boss. At the very least, this special boss was at least as strong as a floor boss on the 40th floor. If too many people came, it would only be a hindrance. Only the Divine Dragon Alliance would send so many people. At the front of the Knights of the Blood Oath, the one who led them was the only female player present, and a very beautiful one at that. He wore the same white uniform with red edges as the other members of the Knights of the Blood Oath, but he was wearing a woman's short skirt. There was a cape on both sides of his thighs, and his smooth shoulders were exposed to the air. A pair of long white socks covered his thighs, and his chest was covered by a decorative shirt that looked like armor. On his waist, a weapon that looked like a western sword swayed with the wind. Among the tall and mighty Knights of the Blood Oath, he was the shortest, but he had the most imposing aura. Her long chestnut-colored hair hung down behind her back. Both sides of her hair were tied in braids that covered the entire back of her head. Her long bangs were slanted, and 2 strands of hair fell parallel to her eyebrows, covering her waist. Her pupils, which were the same color as her hair, did not fluctuate at all. She looked cold, yet full of heroic spirit. Flash. Asuna. The vice leader of the Knights of the Blood Oath. Asuna, who was only willing to hide under a cape, finally showed her charming face to the outside world. She became the vice leader of the strongest guild in Sao, Knights of the Blood Oath. She's also the strongest female player in Sao. She's talented and beautiful. Asuna deserves to be praised like this. However, the coldness on her face made Asuna look sacred. She's one of the top 5 beauties in Sao, yet she's somehow pitiful. She's a beauty that can be ranked in the top 5 of Sao's female population. She's pitiful. She's a beauty that can only be admired from afar. Asuna frowned slightly and looked at Moonlit Black Cats, Furinkazan, and Divine Dragon Alliance. Although Asuna had expected that there would be a bloody battle in the Forest of Wandering before she came here, she didn't expect it to end up in a deadlock. The 4 guilds are the clearers, they know each other the best. No one knows the strength of their opponents better than them, so no one wants to be the first to step out. That's how the stalemate came to be. At a certain moment, at the entrance of the forest of wandering behind them, a series of ripples spread out like water ripples. Not long after, a team of about 20 people wearing military armor rushed in and forcefully inserted themselves in the middle of the 4 opposing guilds. It was a very barbaric scene. Many people frowned when they saw this. Asuna glanced at the sudden appearance of the team. I didn't expect the army to be here as well. Well, it's a resurrection item, who wouldn't want it? Asuna only glanced at the people from the army for a second before turning her attention away. To her, the army and the Divine Dragon Alliance were nothing to be afraid of. They don't have a soul, they lack top-tier players, they're just relying on their numbers. At the same time, another ripple appeared at the entrance of the Forest of Wandering, attracting everyone's attention. Then, a figure wearing a dark blue coat with a long sword on his back appeared. Many people were stunned when they saw this person. Klein shouted in surprise. Kirito. It's Kirito. Chapter 640. Kirito didn't expect there to be so many people here. He was startled as soon as he came in. It wasn't until he heard Klein's voice that he came back to his senses. Kirito, you bastard. Klein abandoned his men and ran to Kirito without hesitation. If I knew you were coming, I would have told you to come with me. Kirito was the first person he met when he first entered Sao. Klein treated him as his best friend even though Kirito didn't choose to stay in the town of beginnings with him. I didn't expect this either. Kirito looked at everyone strangely. I didn't expect this to happen. I thought I was the only one who found information about the special boss. Kirito didn't know where the special boss was in the closed beta. It was only available on Christmas Eve, so Kirito didn't know where the special boss was. Plus, he didn't care about the special boss as much as he did in the original novel, and he didn't want to risk his life in a one-on-one fight. Naturally, he was much later than the others. So the clearers are all here. Kirito glanced at Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Furinkazan, Divine Dragon Alliance, and finally stopped at the army. Even they are here. It seems like the revival item fight is going to be difficult. It won't be that easy to get involved. Kirito didn't sound worried or anxious at all. Instead, he sounded very relaxed. It was as if he didn't care about the 5 top guilds at all. Hey, Kirito. Klein chuckled. Since you're here, why don't you form a party with us? The revival item will belong to whoever gets it. Okay. Sure. Kirito agreed without hesitation. Kirito didn't experience the rejection from the original work, so he became the so-called cheater. He didn't have a deep relationship with the Moonlit Black Cats, which led to their demise. Compared to the original work, Kirito was much happier here. Without those nightmarish experiences, Kirito didn't need to form a party even though he was usually alone. He wouldn't refuse. The current situation. Even a fool would know that it was impossible for him to compete with 5 top-tier guilds by himself. The chances were slim, so it was better to team up with Klein. That way, the chances of getting resurrection items would be much higher. Add to that the difficulty of the special boss. Even Kirito would have a 90% chance of dying if he were to fight it alone. Since he didn't have to respawn every time he died, of course Kirito wouldn't risk his life to fight it alone. Kirito joining Furinkazan was undoubtedly a good thing. But for the other 4 guilds, it wasn't a good thing. Asuna was the only one who was still expressionless. Her expression was terrifying. Of course, Asuna knew Kirito. Not only did they team up on the first floor, but they also often met each other in the clearers. Both of them were top clearers, and their strength was close to each other. They often quarreled over strategies, so over time, they became familiar with each other. But it's only limited to being familiar with each other. If there's a conflict of interest, Asuna wouldn't worry too much. For example, right now, Kirito followed Klein to Furinkazan's position and saw that everyone was in a stalemate, so he couldn't help but ask. Don't tell me we're going to keep going like this? There's still some time until midnight, but it'll take a long time to deal with the special boss. Hearing this, the members of the 5 guilds looked at each other and fell silent. They had to admit that Kirito's words made sense. Indeed, we can't let this stalemate continue. Asuna stepped forward and said loudly. Everyone, let's fight together. We'll follow the clearest rules and whoever gets the resurrection item will get it. What do you think? What do you think? Sutta, Klein, and Sutta pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement. The Divine Dragon Alliance and the army also had no objections. They have more people, so the chances of getting the resurrection item will be higher. At least, that's what the 2 guilds thought. After everyone agreed, the heavy atmosphere in the air disappeared. Asuna nodded. Then, just as Asuna was about to announce her departure, a ripple appeared at the entrance of the Forest of Wandering, blocking Asuna's words. Everyone's expression froze as they turned to look at the source of the ripple. Now that all the clearers are here, even the solo player Kirito is here, who else is going to come? Could it be Agile? That's what everyone thought. They didn't even consider the possibility that it's a small guild or team. Even if they came, they're destined to return empty-handed compared to the 5 guilds here. Under the watchful eyes of everyone present, the water rippled and spread out in all directions. The snowflakes floating in the dark night were also swept away by the water ripples. Then, a figure slowly emerged from the water ripples and walked towards them. When the figure's full appearance appeared in the air, the eyes of nearly 100 players on the scene bulged out and they sucked in a mouthful of cold air. However, they didn't realize it at all. Instead, they rubbed their eyes as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. When they finally realized that what they saw wasn't wrong, their mouths gradually widened. In front of them, a figure wearing a black overcoat and carrying a long black greatsword slowly walked over from the ripples of the water. On the overcoat, there were ribbons tied to both arms and waist that whistled along with the snowy wind in the dark night, making this black figure appear free and easy. It made the eyes of those who looked at him a little more intoxicated. On his shoulder, a small fairy was sitting on it. The white light emitting from its body seemed to add a trace of warmth to its master, who was black all over. The 2 figures of different sizes, one black and one white, complemented each other perfectly. It was as if they were born to be like this, as if they were made by nature, wearing a black coat, carrying a black greatsword, and a fairy sitting on his shoulder. Is there anyone in Sao who wouldn't recognize a person with this appearance? Fey swordsman. Wu Yen. It was unknown who shouted this, but the members of the 5 top guilds, Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Elements, Divine Dragon Alliance, and the army, reacted one after another. Fey swordsman. It's Fey swordsman. The strongest player. Fey swordsman, Wu Yen. He's here too, I saw him in person. I saw the Fey swordsman in person. Asuna, Kirito, Sutta, and Klein finally snapped out of their daze when they heard the shouts from the members of the 5 guilds. Their faces immediately changed. It's him. Kirito was shocked. Is he that legendary man? Klein's face was full of excitement. He's here too. Sutta smiled. It's him. Asuna couldn't believe her eyes. Fey swordsman, the strongest player, the legendary man who single-handedly cleared 20 floors of Aincrad. He's the mysterious man who hasn't been seen more than 10 times in the past year. And now, he's in front of everyone's eyes. At this moment, no matter which guild they're from, they're no different from normal people. All that's left is their commotion. It's really him. The coldness on Asuna's face has completely disappeared. Looking at the figure that left a deep impression on her, Asuna's eyes began to flicker with emotion. Wondrous Brush Pavilion 5200, no pop-up window, quick update, remember. Chapter 641. Wu Yen couldn't help but be surprised by the number of people he saw. He paused for a split second before he continued walking as if nothing had happened. Wu Yen left footprints in the snow behind him. They disappeared as soon as they appeared, as if no one had ever set foot on this place. However, no one could ignore the person walking towards them because he is a legend. Ta, 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 ta. Rhythmic footsteps entered everyone's ears, and it's getting closer and closer. Originally, the entrance to the Forest of Wandering was surrounded by the players of the 5 guilds. However, as Wu Yan got closer, the players who were closest to him subconsciously opened up a path for him to pass through. All of this was done subconsciously until they realized that they were the ones who made way for Wu Yan. The title of the strongest player in the Forest of Wandering is very powerful. Looking at the figure who ignored everyone present and walked in, none of the 100 or so players who were usually proud and arrogant dared to scold him. Perhaps they had such thoughts in their hearts. After all, they were players from top guilds. However, their bodies did not listen to their commands at all, until a certain moment, a slightly excited voice broke the deathly silence. Yen. Suta's voice was loud and clear. He attracted a lot of attention. Suta straightened his back and walked towards Wu Yan under everyone's watchful eyes. Wu Yan stopped when he saw Suta walking towards him. He turned around to look at him. Although I heard that you've brought people here, I didn't expect you to be at the entrance. Glancing at the players from Blood Oath Cavalry, Moonlit Black Cats, Furinkazan, Divine Dragon Alliance, and the army, the corner of his lips curled up. What? Are you going to welcome me? Suta scratched his head awkwardly when he heard Wu Yan's words. The other members of the Moonlit Black Cats were dumbfounded. Their guild leader was usually very kind, but he wouldn't show such an expression. It was as if he was facing an elder brother or an idol. Only the 3 elders who had accompanied Keita all this time knew how much this man had changed their guild. It could be said that without him, the Moonlit Black Cats wouldn't have been able to reach where they were today. In a way, Wu Yan is the benefactor of Suta and the others. But very quickly, the stupidity on the faces of the members of the Moonlit Black Cats disappeared, and was replaced by a strong sense of excitement. His president was actually acquainted with that legendary powerhouse. What a glorious thing this was. Almost every player in SAO knows that the Fey swordsman Wu Yan is a super strong player who rarely shows his face. It's hard to even catch a glimpse of him. Even if they can't recruit him into their guild, they can at least get acquainted with him. It was easy to imagine how the members of the Moonlit Black Cats felt when they found out that their guild leader was friends with this person. As the top players of this world, they actually felt proud of themselves. As for the Blood Oath Cavalry Regiment, Furinkazan, Sacred Dragon Alliance, and the army, their faces turned cold. They had a bad feeling about this. If that legendary figure were to join the Moonlit Black Cats, then the battle for this special boss would be, thinking of this, the respect they had for Wu Yan disappeared. All that was left was vigilance. With the precious resurrection item in front of them, no matter how legendary this person is, he's destined to be their enemy. Of course, Suta doesn't think so. He knows this person in front of him won't be on the same side as him. It's been like this for the past year. That's why Suta didn't invite Wu Yan to join the party. Instead, he said helplessly, "Since you're here, then our chances of getting the resurrection item aren't very high." "Don't say that." Wu Yan patted Suta's shoulder as he teased him. "Maybe you'll get the last hit in the end?" Suta shook his head in annoyance. "Anyway, I don't have much hope." Wu Yan didn't say anything else. He looked up and scanned the faces of the players. Those who made eye contact with Wu Yan subconsciously felt awkward. Wu Yan didn't mind and continued to scan the players one by one. Finally, he stopped at 2 people. Kirito. Asuna. Kirito wasn't surprised to see these 2 people he hadn't seen in a while. However, Asuna's words caught Wu Yan's attention. Wu Yan couldn't help but sigh in amazement. He had never seen Asuna's real face before, he only saw her on TV or in the newspapers. Now that he's seeing her in person, Wu Yan had to admit that Asuna is very beautiful. She's so beautiful that even his other wives can't compare to her in terms of beauty. She's definitely one of the top beauties in the world. Wu Yan calmly looked at Kirito with a smile. "Long time no see." "Yeah, it's been a long time." Kirito sighed as he looked at the only player in this game that he respected. It's been about a year. Kirito replied. It's been a long time, but I've heard a lot about you. Wu Yan said. The Black Swordsman, you're very famous. Are you making fun of me? Kirito was speechless. Who can beat Wu Yan when it comes to lively performances? Wu Yan's reputation. Hey! Kirito. At this time, Klein grabbed Kirito's head, pulled him closer, and said sternly, Do you know him? Yeah, sort of. Kirito said casually. We fought together when we were fighting the first floor's boss. Damn it. You didn't even tell me you knew someone like him. You're such a bad brother. Klein glared at Kirito with jealousy. His tone was sour, as if Kirito had stolen his wife, which made Kirito feel disgusted. Wu Yan was annoyed when he saw Klein and Kirito whispering to each other. He stopped talking and turned to Suda. I'll be going first. With that, Wu Yan left everyone behind and walked into the depths of the Forest of Wandering. Nearly 100 players watched Wu Yan walk into the forest. When Wu Yan's figure disappeared into the water, they started whispering to each other. Vice Commander. A member of Knights of the Blood walked up to Asuna, who was looking at Wu Yan's disappearing figure. What should we do? Everyone in the 5 guilds had the same question. Although the resurrection item is precious, none of them thought that a legendary figure would be attracted to it. Originally, with the other guilds as their opponents, they could have used the clearest rules to win, or they could have used their trump cards to compete with the other guilds. Wu Yan's arrival caught them off guard. Competing with the strongest player in the game, the Fey swordsman, who could fight against the clearest alone. On the surface, it looked like they had the absolute advantage and victory was within their grasp. However, they have a feeling that they won't be able to win against the other party. Asuna pursed her lips and calmed down. She waved her hand and said, Follow him. Act according to the situation. Yes. At the same time, the other 4 guilds made the same decision. Chapter 642. According to the intel, the Christmas Eve special boss will appear under a fir tree. If the information that the special boss was located in the Forest of Wandering was obtained only after painstaking investigation and deduction, then the information that the boss was located under a fir tree was the best piece of information to deduce. After all, it was Christmas Eve and the special boss was an event on Christmas Eve. As a Christmas event, it wasn't too hard to guess that the special boss would appear at the fir tree. It was easy to guess what was related to Christmas. In fact, most people had already guessed that the special boss this time would be similar to Santa Claus's appearance. In the Forest of Wandering, there were many fir trees. However, there was only one tree that could accommodate a boss and be used as a Christmas event venue. That was the tallest and largest fir tree in the deepest part of the Forest of Wandering. Wu Yan followed the map and arrived at the location of the fir tree. After passing through a teleportation point in the Forest of Wandering, the tree entered his sight. Wu Yan looked up at the tree. It's a rare sight even in the behemoth forest of the Spalier world. He walked towards the tree with a relaxed expression. It's like he's here for an outing and not to fight a boss. When Wu Yan walked towards the tree, a series of water ripples appeared behind him. The Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Furing Kazan, Divine Dragon Alliance, and the army all appeared under the leadership of Asuna, Kirito, Suda, and Klein. They stopped in their tracks as if by prior agreement, and surrounded the place as they had done at the entrance of the forest, raising their eyes to look at the figure walking towards the fir tree. One-on-one? It's a one-on-one duel, right? Klein grinned and laughed. I can finally witness the power of the legendary Fey swordsman. Kirito nodded and stared at the figure in front of him. He muttered. Let's see the difference between us, he's alone again. Asuna went silent. She didn't know what to feel about this. Wu Yan left a deep impression on her, so she's been paying attention to Wu Yan for the past year. In the past year, she had learned of his strength, his achievements, and his current situation. However, all of these pieces of information had the same message. From the beginning to the end, he had always been alone. Maybe there's no one in this world who can team up with me. Asuna clenched her fists when she remembered what he said. She doesn't know why, but she really cares about that sentence. After all, Asuna was alone in Sao for the first month of her stay in Sao. Maybe it's because of her experience, or maybe it's because she's curious, but Asuna cares about Wu Yan a lot. She already cared about him since a year ago, and it's only gotten stronger after a year. Wu Yan didn't know about this yet. If he did, he would have been shocked. Back then, he only exchanged a few words with Asuna, that's all they did. The tall fir tree in front of him does look a bit like a Christmas tree. If he hung some decorations on it, it would be a perfect Christmas tree. However, Wu Yan didn't see any signs of the boss. Until, in the sky, the sound of a Christmas bell suddenly rang in the snowy sky. Along with the sound of the bell, it resounded loudly and attracted everyone's attention. Raising their heads to look at the snowflakes floating in the night sky, everyone saw two lines of clouds that looked like planes flying through the clouds. They flew quickly into the distance and disappeared into the night in an instant. Then, a huge figure fell from the sky without any warning. With an incomparably swift whistling sound, it smashed into the ground with a loud bang. The snowflakes on the ground were swept away by the force, shrouding the huge figure. In the blink of an eye, it dissipated in a gust of wind. A monster that looks like Santa Claus appeared in the middle of the snowflakes. Its skin is greenish-black, and its face is distorted. It looks like an adult version of Santa Claus. Its eyes are protruding, and there's a red glow in them. It's the boss. Behind them, Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Furinkazan, Divine Dragon Alliance, and the army all grabbed their weapons and got ready to charge. After Asuna, Sutta, and Klein stopped them, Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, and Furinkazan relaxed and stared at the boss. Only Divine Dragon Alliance and the army were still eager to charge at the boss. Looking at the 4 to 5 meter tall boss, Wu Yan narrowed his eyes. His wine-red pupils didn't contain any emotion as he looked at the boss. It's as if he's looking at a monkey brandishing a sword or a gun. He didn't even look at the boss in the eye. Maybe the boss noticed the contempt of the little guy in front of her. Her malevolent face started shaking like a puppet. She started making clacking noises as her bloodshot eyes started moving around randomly. She stared at Wu Yan for a second before fixing her gaze on Wu Yan. Boom! A loud thud could be heard. That's the sound of the boss stomping on the ground. He pulled out an axe and with a stomp, he charged at Wu Yan with the force of a mountain. Looking at the charging boss, Wu Yan raised his hand and lightly placed it on the hilt of Heaven Gazer on his back. His coat fluttered in the wind caused by the boss's charge, but Wu Yan didn't do anything. Only when the boss got close to him did he pull out Heaven Gazer. Clang, a strong gust of wind blew from where the two collided. Along with the sound of weapons clashing, the wind whistled and blew in all directions. It was like an avalanche, and the clearers were hit by a blizzard. The players all raised their hands to shield their faces, their eyes squinting from the snowflakes and strong winds. However, none of them were willing to close their eyes for a moment of comfort. They knew that if they missed today's battle, they might not be able to see the elven swordsmen fight again. Of course, Wu Yan didn't disappoint them. They could only see the outline of the figure buried in the snow, but they could see the other figure clearly. That's why they saw the 5-meter-tall body of the boss flying in the air from the center of the battle. It spun around and flew out from the center of the battle. Klein's pupils shrunk to the size of a needle, and a drop of sweat dripped down his forehead. What? What a powerful force! Asuna, Kirito, and Sutta didn't say anything. They just stared at the scene in front of them. They didn't want to miss anything. Bang! The flying boss was smashed into the ground by this attack, causing countless snowflakes to fly up. The 4 long HP bars on the boss were visibly reduced by more than half. In other words, this attack had directly shaved off 1/8 of the boss's HP. So powerful. Chapter 643. Since the special boss on Christmas Eve could drop precious resurrection items, its strength was naturally unparalleled. Otherwise, any random player could kill this boss. Then, the 5 guilds wouldn't need to send so many elites. Moonlit black cats, elements, and even the guild leaders came personally. Knights of the Blood sent out their vice leader. Divine Dragon Alliance and the army used their numbers to suppress the situation. All of this told others how strong the boss was. Perhaps it was because of the resurrection item, but more importantly, it was because of the strength of the boss itself. According to preliminary estimates, the strength of a special boss was at least as strong as a level 40 boss and above. There was no upper limit. Even if Kirito and Asuna went up against a boss monster like this, their chances of victory would be slim. They would need to team up and take some unnecessary risks. However, in Wu Yan's hands, the boss monster was like a child facing off against a giant. In less than 5 seconds, the boss's HP bar dropped by January 8th. What does this mean? This meant that the boss in front of them would be destroyed in just 7 more 5 seconds and 7 more attacks like this. It's as weak as a wild monster. The players looked at each other. They were stunned when they saw the boss's HP bar drop by January 8th. Too strong. Too strong. Klein gulped. No wonder he could clear 20 floors of Aincrad by himself. He's not even on the same level as us. How did he train? Is there a bug in SAO? That's impossible. Kirito shook his head with a bitter smile. I don't want to admit it, but SAO is surprisingly fair and stable. If there's a bug that can be exploited, there's more than one player who can do it. There's no shortage of players with sharp eyes in this game. Klein fell silent and turned to look at Keita. How do you know him? You guys seem to be close. We've known each other for a long time. Suda stared straight ahead. He's the calmest one out of everyone here after seeing Wu Yan's performance. We met on the second day of the game. We've known each other for a long time. He helped me a lot to get to where I am today. Asuna, Kirito, and Klein finally understood why the moonlit black cats kept up with the times and why they were always among the best in terms of equipment. If it's because of Wu Yan, then it's a lot easier to explain. Indeed, without these advanced equipment, the strength of the moonlit black cats would drop by at least a level. Not to mention the strongest guild, the Knights of the Blood Oath, they would be even weaker than Furinkazan and Divine Dragon Alliance. They would only be able to compare to the army that had suffered heavy casualties a while ago. Asuna suddenly asked. You've known him for so long, have you ever teamed up with him? Suda paused and sighed. No. Not even once. We don't even have the qualifications to team up with him, even now. Asuna bit her lip. Could it be that he didn't form a team from the beginning to the end? Keita nodded his head heavily. As far as I know, yes. Asuna didn't know what to say anymore. Are you serious? Klein looked at Kirito. Looks like he's even more of a loner than you. At least you've teamed up with him a few times. Kirito crossed his arms in front of his chest. If I was as strong as him, I wouldn't have teamed up with him. Kirito was a loner by nature. He had always been alone. The few times he had formed a party was because he was forced to fight a boss or a boss. If Kirito had the strength to fight a boss alone, he wouldn't have formed a party with his personality. Asuna, Kirito, Suda, and Klein didn't notice that Divine Dragon Alliance and army's members were sneaking up on them from both sides. Bam! Another crushing blow sent the boss flying, taking away 1/8 of its HP. Wu Yan dodged and pulled some distance away from the boss. At this time, the boss's HP bar had already been emptied by 2 bars, dropping down to the yellow state of half HP. Wielding Heaven Gazer, Wu Yan was about to charge forward again when his body froze. His relaxed expression disappeared in an instant and his eyes flashed with a sharp glint. He retracted his leg that was about to exert force and came to a stop. Asuna, Kirito, Suda, and Klein were confused when they saw Wu Yan stop attacking. The boss only had half of its HP left. Wu Yan could easily deal with it. Why did he stop? Kirito looked at Wu Yan in confusion and then at the boss. He was shocked. What are they doing? Asuna, Sutta, and Klein froze for a moment and followed Kirito's gaze. When they saw what was going on, they were shocked. The Divine Dragon Alliance and the army crept up to the boss from the side and started to charge at the boss. They were obviously planning to snatch the boss for themselves. These bastards. Sutta was the first to get angry. He clenched his fists. How dare they try to steal the boss? Don't they feel ashamed? Ha! These bastards have done a lot of shameful things. Klein said with a face full of disgust, the Divine Dragon Alliance is famous for being willing to do anything for rare items. The same goes for the army. In the name of saving the people, they have done a lot of things like plundering items. Asuna and Kirito didn't say anything. They didn't have any expression on their faces, but their eyes were filled with disgust. They hated this kind of behavior. Hey, Sutta. Klein joked. Aren't you going to help him? Don't you guys have a good relationship? Even though he doesn't agree with the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army's actions, he can't just step in and cause a misunderstanding. It's not worth it. Klein also wants the resurrection item, but he doesn't want to offend that legendary figure. He's someone who can solo the boss in the labyrinth. They can't afford to offend him. The Xinglong Alliance and the army were blinded by greed. Sutta is the only one here who has a reason to step in. As for Asuna, who knows what she's thinking, Sutta shook his head with a smile and turned around. He's not that weak to the point where he needs help. Weak? Kirito and Klein had a strange expression on their faces. The Divine Dragon Alliance and the army aren't that lucky, but they're still two of the top 5 guilds in the game. They have the advantage in numbers. No matter how strong the boss is, it's still losing HP under the constant attacks of the two guilds. The leaders of the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army immediately shouted and increased the intensity of their attacks. They did not seem to realize that they had killed other monsters. It was as if they were the ones who had been fighting the boss all along. They also ordered the members who had low HP to go down and drink recovery potions. Not long after, the boss's HP finally dropped to red. The two guilds were excited. Just as they were about to attack the boss, a shadow flashed by and appeared in front of the boss at an unimaginable speed. Bang! The glowing heavenly gazer slashed down on the boss. The boss's HP was reduced to nothing. Its huge body shattered into pieces and fell on the shadow that appeared out of nowhere. The members of the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army were stunned. Chapter 644. The sound of the final blow was still echoing in the snowy night. The entire forest of Wandering reverberated with the sound of the final blow. The members of Divine Dragon Alliance and army were dumbfounded. The boss was about to die in their hands, but someone else managed to steal the final blow. The eyes of the members of Divine Dragon Alliance and army turned crimson red. Their faces contorted in anger. They had completely forgotten that they were the ones who stole the boss from the other guilds. Under the fir tree, Wu Yan carried the Heaven Gazer on his back. He did not even look at the members of Divine Dragon Alliance and army. He opened up his personal interface and tapped on his inventory. A diamond-shaped golden pedestal appeared in his hand. At the center of the golden rhombus-shaped pedestal was a blue circular crystal. Weighing the item in his hand, Wu Yan tapped on it and the item's information popped up in front of him. Let me see. Saint Crystal of Soul Return. Resurrection item. Can be used within 10 seconds of the target player's death. After using it, the target player will be given a chance to resurrect. What the hell? There's a time limit. The sound of someone reading aloud echoed in the silent snowy night. It was heard by every player in the area. The players who were still in a daze looked at the Saint Crystal of Soul Return in Wu Yan's hand. Their eyes were burning with desire. The news that the special boss that would only appear tonight would drop resurrection items was doubtful in the eyes of the players who knew about it. The reason was that once they died in the game, their bodies in the real world would die at the same time. Could it be that items in the game could resurrect the dead in the real world? Of course, that was impossible. However, since the news was spread, it would not be without reason. It might actually be possible. That was why all the major guilds sent their people to meet this so-called special boss. Now that the special boss was finally dead, the resurrection item dropped. Although there was a time limit to the resurrection target's death, the resurrection item was real. A resurrection item. Everyone stared at the Saint Crystal of Soul Return in Wu Yan's hand. Asuna, Sutta, and Klein were the same. Only Kirito looked away after a glance. It was as if he did not care about it at all. Wu Yan, who was in the center of everyone's attention, put the Saint Crystal of Soul Return in his inventory and walked towards the exit. The members of Divine Dragon Alliance and army looked at each other. They could not resist the greed in their hearts and surrounded Wu Yan. Asuna, Kirito, Sutta, and Klein's expression changed. So they're going to rob it? Sutta's voice. Idiot, hey, shouldn't we help him? Klein elbowed Sutta. We can't let him kill the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army, can we? It'll cause a lot of trouble. Asuna and Kirito were reminded of Wu Yan's declaration during the first floor boss strategy meeting a year ago. Their expression turned heavy. If Divine Dragon Alliance and army got slaughtered by Wu Yan, it'll cause a huge uproar in Sao. The speed of clearing Aincrad will drop by a few notches. Those guys are annoying, but they're not at the point where they need to pay with their lives. They can't let that happen. Enough is enough. Asuna led the members of Knights of the Blood forward. She broke through the encirclement of Divine Dragon Alliance and army and stood between Wu Yan and the two guilds. The boss battle is over and the resurrection item has been dropped. There's no point in fighting anymore. Asuna said loudly, do you really want to sacrifice your life for something other than the boss battle? Vice Leader. The leader of the Divine Dragon Alliance stepped forward and he pointed at Wu Yan, who looked like he didn't notice anything amiss. He's not part of the clearers. The rules don't apply to him, right? That's right. Army's leader also stepped forward and glanced at Wu Yan. He's not part of the clearers, Vice Leader. The rules don't apply to him, otherwise, we won't accept it. You won't accept it? Asuna leaned to the side. Her voice was filled with disgust. Then who should we accept it? You're the one who stole their boss, right? You can't say that, Vice Leader. Army's leader said with a righteous tone. In order to free the players trapped in Sao, the resurrection item should be used to help the clearers. Isn't that the most helpful? Asuna was speechless. She stared at the leader of the army with her chestnut-colored eyes. The leader of the army actually puffed out his chest shamelessly and put on a righteous expression as if the truth was on his side. Yo, that's some big talk. Sutta, Klein, and Moonlit Black Cats and Furinkazan walked over and stood next to Asuna. So you're saying that we have to make sacrifices to save the players? Klein curled his lips. Then why did the army choose to rest after the casualties? Shouldn't you be at the front line even if you have to sacrifice the last man in your army to save the players? You. Army's leader choked. Divine Dragon Alliance's leader saw that army's leader was shocked and decided to be rude. In short, we won't retreat until he hands over the resurrection item. Then I'll make it clear. Sutta waved his hand and announced loudly. We, Moonlit Black Cats, will stand on your side. Asuna and Klein didn't say anything, but they didn't step aside either. They stood in front of Wu Yan. It's obvious that they want to support him. Kirito, who was standing on the side, saw this scene and frowned deeply. This is going to be troublesome. Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Furinkazan, Divine Dragon Alliance, and the army. These 5 guilds were not only the top guilds in Sao, but also the main force of the clearers. Without them, clearing Aincrad would become a never-ending dream. If these 5 guilds were to cause a ruckus here, the clearers wouldn't be disbanded, but it would definitely affect the clearers. At least, it would greatly slow down the progress of the clearers. Wu Yan, who has been watching from the sidelines, suddenly smiled. It's a very evil smile. You want to rob us? His words silenced all the players in the room. Wu Yan walked past Asuna, Sutta, and Klein. He stopped in front of the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army. He glanced at them and he said in a lazy tone. If you want to rob us, you can just say it. You don't have to flatter yourselves. Wu Yan shook his head and smiled. I hate it when people say one thing but think another. Disgusting. Asuna and the others were slightly shocked and there was a hint of anxiety in their eyes. Based on the situation just now, there are 3 guilds here and 2 guilds on the other side. In the end, they will part on bad terms, but at the same time, nothing will happen. But with Wu Yan's words, doesn't that mean he's not going to let this matter rest? Wu Yan didn't care at all. He took out the Saint Crystal of Soul Rebirth from his inventory and raised it in front of everyone. His lips curled into a cold smirk. Didn't you want it? Come and take it. Chapter 645. Silence. Everyone's gaze shifted to the Saint Crystal of Soul Return. Everyone, including Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, and Furinkazan, couldn't hide the desire in their eyes, let alone Divine Dragon Alliance and army. Their faces were filled with greed. However, when they saw the Saint Crystal of Soul Return right in front of them, no one dared to take it, not even the 2 guilds that were making things difficult for them. The Fey swordsman Wu Yan, his name is a miracle in Sao. He managed to keep up with the clearest progress by himself. His feats have reached a peak in the past year, to the point that anyone who hears about him can't help but be in awe of him. Moreover, he had fully displayed his strength in the previous boss battle. No matter how many people the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army had, they could not rely on their numbers to offset the terrifying battle power of the man before them. Perhaps they could rely on their words and situation to suppress this famous Lone Ranger. They could also rely on some righteous reasons to blatantly demand what they want. However, if they were to actually fight this legendary, Fey swordsman, in front of them, there was not a single one of them who wouldn't be trembling in fear. The 2 leaders of the Sacred Dragon Alliance and the army stared at the Saint Crystal of Soul Return. They raised and lowered their hands, but they didn't dare to touch the crystal. They didn't know if the super powerhouse in front of them would attack them the moment they raised their hands. They also didn't know if the super powerhouse in front of them would show them any mercy. They were yelling for the Saint Crystal of Soul Return just a moment ago, but now they don't dare to take it. This strange scene made the atmosphere filled with mockery. Asuna, Kirito, Sutta, and Klein, on the other hand, were relieved. At least this proved that the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army weren't completely blinded by greed. Asuna walked to Wu Yan's side and whispered in his ear. Alright, don't push too hard, or they might actually attack. Wu Yan curled his lips. He wanted to tell Asuna that he doesn't care if they attack or not, but he saw Asuna's serious expression and her eyes were a bit erratic. He smiled and rolled his eyes. He wanted to tease her. That. Wu Yan tilted his head and pretended to be confused. Who are you? Asuna's expression stiffened, her erratic eyes turned into anger. She looked up at Wu Yan, only to see Wu Yan's confused expression. Asuna suddenly remembered that she didn't reveal her true face to him. She pursed her lips and turned her head away. I'm Asuna. Asuna? Wu Yan held back his laughter and asked again. Who is Asuna? This time, not only Asuna, but Kirito, Sutta, Klein, and the other 2 guild leaders also had a weird expression. Asuna, the Flash, the vice leader of Knights of the Blood, one of the top 5 most beautiful women in Sao. He doesn't even know who she is? Asuna was furious. She leaned in front of Wu Yan and pointed at his chest. I say, even if you don't know my name, you should at least know my voice. Am I not enough for you to remember me for a year? Calm down. Calm down. Wu Yan took a step back and he awkwardly pushed his hand away. I remember now, I remember now. Asuna snorted coldly. She finally calmed down. He was the one who left the deepest impression on her in Sao, but he didn't remember her at all. It would be strange if he didn't remember her. Wu Yan smirked when he saw Asuna's angry expression. He said something that almost made Asuna explode. "You're that cloaked girl, right?" "Cloaked girl." Asuna clenched her fists, her body trembled with anger. She took 2 deep breaths to calm herself down. "Ah, that's right, I'm that cloaked woman." Asuna gritted her teeth and said, "Thank you for remembering me." "Well, you're welcome." Asuna turned around and stared at Wu Yan's face. If looks could kill, Wu Yan would have died a few times already. Hey, are you kidding me?" Klein said to Kirito. "We're in the middle of a war, what are they doing? Flirting? Huh? Who knows?" Kirito's mouth twitched. Maybe all powerful people are weird like that. Suda glanced at Kirito. It's obvious that he's one of those weird and powerful people. Kirito couldn't help but look away. Wu Yan put the Saint Crystal of Soul Return back into his inventory. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Wu Yan appeared behind the 2 leaders of Divine Dragon Alliance and Army. The 2 leaders broke out in cold sweat as they felt the pressure coming from behind them. Their faces paled. The members of Divine Dragon Alliance and Army retreated in horror. They didn't know when Wu Yan appeared next to them, but they couldn't even hold their weapons properly. If he attacked just now, gulp. The sound of saliva being swallowed could be heard, followed by a series of gasps. They now know that no one on their side can match Wu Yan's speed. Wu Yan turned his back to the 2 leaders and sighed. "If you have time to waste on fighting, why don't you think about how to improve your own strength?" Wu Yan started walking towards the exit. After all, strength is the only thing that can guarantee one's safety in this world. The Divine Dragon Alliance and Army didn't try to stop Wu Yan because they didn't have the confidence to do so. Suda shook his head. "He's still as shocking as ever," Kirito said helplessly. "He also left on his own." "Well, that's good." Klein giggled. "He looks like a strong person, super cool." Asuna's jaw dropped as she watched Klein leave. Her heart tightened as she watched him leave. Once again, she left by herself. Asuna really wanted to stop Wu Yan and make him stay. She didn't know why, but she didn't want him to leave alone. Every time she looked at his back, she had a strong urge to chase after him. Maybe it's because of the regret from before, or maybe it's because of something else, but she didn't want to lose contact with him again. But she couldn't find a reason to stop him. Just like that time, Asuna clenched her teeth tightly and clenched her fists until they turned white. When a box appeared in front of her, Asuna's eyes lit up and she hurriedly chased after it. "Wait!" Asuna ran in front of Wu Yan and opened her arms as if she was afraid that Wu Yan would run away. Wu Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Fine, I'll wait. Do you really need to do this?" Asuna's face turned red. She coughed and pretended to be serious. Can you come with me for a second?" Wu Yan's expression turned into one of excitement. "This plot, could it be? Don't get the wrong idea." Asuna's face turned red again. "It's our leader who wants to meet you." "Commander?" Wu Yan flinched and he lifted his head. "Heathcliff, is it?" Asuna nodded. "That's right, Heathcliff just sent her an email and asked her to bring Wu Yan to his place." "Heathcliff." Wu Yan's eyes flashed with a strange light. He smiled and looked at Asuna. "Lead the way." Chapter 646. Aincrad's 55th floor, Granzum. In the corner of Granzum City, there's a silver-white castle-like building. It's like a king's palace, filled with flags and statues. It's also like a war fortress, full of deterrents. Standing in front of this building, one can't help but feel small and insignificant. Coupled with the fluttering flags, there's a faint murderous aura in the air. On top of the flag, there's a sword-shaped symbol that looks like a cross. The bright red flag in the cross sword made it look very sacred. If someone who doesn't know about this place came here, they might think this is a king's palace or a general's residence. And this place was the headquarters of the Knights of the Blood. After more than a year, the so-called excellent new guild has transformed into the strongest guild in Sao. Knights of the Blood's name is known to all. Only those who were forced into a mental breakdown in Sao would know about this guild. Even in the first floor of the town of beginnings, there's no one who doesn't know about this guild. As the strongest guild in Sao, Knights of the Blood doesn't have a lot of members, only a few hundred. It's a little extravagant for them to live in this castle-like building, not to mention some of the higher-ups have their own houses. That's why even though it looks majestic from the outside, there aren't many people living in it. Along the way, there's only a few people in the building. Maybe they're out on a mission, or maybe they're just staying outside. In short, the inside of the building is completely different from the outside, it's unusually quiet. A place like this might be nice to look at, but it's not really suitable to live in. After coming to this conclusion, Wu Yan stopped looking at the empty walls and buildings. He followed Asuna and headed towards Heathcliff's residence. Asuna nodded when she saw Wu Yan stopped looking at the surroundings. She hesitated for a moment before she spoke softly. She seemed to understand what Wu Yan was thinking. Thank you." Wu Yan blinked and looked at Asuna in confusion. Asuna said softly. "That cookbook helped me a lot." Wu Yan nodded and waved his hand casually. "Well, it's good that I helped you. You don't have to thank me. Even without me, you should be able to make a good cookbook. With your obsession with food, what do you mean?" Asuna looked at Wu Yan with dissatisfaction. "Obsession with food? Am I a glutton? Well, who knows?" Wu Yan looked at Asuna with a meaningful smile. Asuna couldn't help but recall the way she ate in front of Wu Yan. Her face was filled with shame and anger. She put her hand on the hilt of her sword. Wu Yan quickly looked away. Asuna snorted and stopped talking to Wu Yan. She led him forward. If you look closely, Asuna's footsteps were a lot faster than before. Wu Yan couldn't help but laugh. She's so childish. After turning a few corners, Asuna led Wu Yan through a long corridor surrounded by iron walls. It didn't take long for them to see a majestic door. Asuna walked ahead of Wu Yan and she pushed open the door. She didn't report her arrival to Wu Yan. She opened the door and the scene behind it was revealed to Wu Yan. It looked like a meeting room. It was spacious but not very decorated. There was only a long desk in the room. Behind the desk, Heathcliff was sitting in a red knight's robe. He looked at Wu Yan as he walked in. The Knights of the Blood flag was hanging on the wall behind him. Wu Yan walked forward and stopped about 5 meters away from Heathcliff. He looked at Heathcliff and Heathcliff looked back at him. Heathcliff looked at Wu Yan and the two looked at each other. Without the difference in environment, this scene is exactly the same as 1 year ago when they met on the second floor of the hotel. However, compared to a year ago, their identities were completely different. A year ago, Wu Yan was a new player and Heathcliff was the leader of a new guild. 1 year later, one of them had become the strongest player in the game, while the other had also become the leader of the strongest guild. The two of them didn't say anything when they met again after a year. They just stared at each other quietly, causing the entire room to be deathly silent. The atmosphere was extremely surging. Asuna held her breath and kept her mouth shut. Her chestnut-colored eyes wandered back and forth between the two figures. Her heartbeat quickened. After what seemed like an eternity, Heathcliff's laughter broke the heavy atmosphere. "Long time no see, Sir Wu Yan," Heathcliff said with an inexplicable emotion. "It's been a year since then." Wu Yan nodded and looked at Heathcliff with a piercing gaze. It was as if he wanted to see through Heathcliff's mind. "You've changed a lot in a year, oh? Is that so?" Heathcliff smiled. "More or less. After all, things are different now. I'm a person of status now, I can't just do whatever I want." "How is it?" "Wu Yan, Kuan," Heathcliff said to Wu Yan. "As you said, I've brought my guild to the top of Sao. Knights of the Blood is now the strongest guild in the world. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" Wu Yan looked around the spacious room and said slowly. "The loss outweighs the gain." Asuna was stunned by Wu Yan's words. She looked at Wu Yan in surprise, but she didn't refute him. Instead, she agreed with him. Heathcliff's eyes narrowed and said with a solemn face. Why would the loss outweigh the gain? Wu Yan twitched the corner of his mouth and looked at Heathcliff with a half-smile. Sometimes, strength comes at a price. Commander Heathcliff, what do you think the price Knights of the Blood has to pay? Heathcliff went silent, but his eyes never left Wu Yan. After a while, he shook his head and said. As I said, things are different now. Without some rules, the guild will fall apart sooner or later. So, some restrictions are necessary, Heathcliff said bluntly. At least, Knights of the Blood is the strongest guild in the world right now. That's undeniable. Wu Yan didn't say anything else and just nodded nonchalantly. Your guild doesn't matter to me anyway, how can it not matter? Wu Yan Kuan. Heathcliff raised his head. If you join the Knights of the Blood, you'll have to remember all of this, right? Asuna was shocked when she heard Heathcliff's words. She quickly looked at Wu Yan. Wu Yan sighed and said to Heathcliff, do you think I'll join your guild? Of course not. Heathcliff said without hesitation. It was as if he didn't really want to invite Wu Yan to join Knights of the Blood. To be honest, you used to terrify me. Heathcliff said with a serious look in his eyes. Commander. Asuna couldn't help but call out to him. Scared? Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and looked at Heathcliff. Yes, scared. Heathcliff took a deep breath and said seriously. Before you appeared, I didn't think anyone in this world could do this, but you did, so. I'm scared. Chapter 647. Heathcliff's words silenced the crowd once again. Looking at Wu Yan standing in front of him, Heathcliff's eyes flashed with a strange look, his expression became serious. Heathcliff was the only one who knew what he was doing. Everyone thought that he was the leader of a top guild, the one who walked on the front line and helped the players in SAO out of their predicament, but all of that was just a facade. After all, his game ID is Heathcliff, but his real name is Kayaba Akihiko. Kayaba Akihiko is the one who created SAO and trapped nearly 10,000 players in the game, causing thousands of players to die within a year. As the creator of SAO, Kayaba Akihiko has unimaginable power because he's the administrator of the game. In this world, he's God. Even without his identity as Kayaba Akihiko, Heathcliff is still one of the top players in SAO. Even Kirito is weaker than him. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he's the strongest player in SAO if Wu Yan didn't exist. That's why Heathcliff said that he's afraid. Yes, as the administrator of SAO, he's afraid because of the man in front of him. As the creator of this world, no one knows better than Heathcliff about the level of this world. It's also because of this that Heathcliff can't believe that there's a player who can do what Wu Yan did. It's not that Heathcliff didn't think that Wu Yan made use of his USB stick that he forgot to fix, but the truth is, every time he heard that Wu Yan cleared a level by himself, he would check the system again and again, and the result was that nothing was wrong. For this reason, Heathcliff even used his administrator privileges to record the battle between Wu Yan and the boss and studied it repeatedly. In the end, Heathcliff only came to one conclusion. Wu Yan's strength is all due to his own combat experience and skills. Equipment, weapons, items, and so on, they're all just support for him. In other words, his strength is all due to himself, it has nothing to do with his USB stick. After coming to this conclusion, Heathcliff was terrified because he didn't know what kind of life Wu Yan went through in the real world to have such terrifying combat ability. Wu Yan's strength is beyond the scope of a player. Ever since he entered SAO, this is the first time Heathcliff thought that he might lose to a player. Fortunately, there was only one such person. Otherwise, Heathcliff would have doubted the purpose of creating this world in the first place. Standing in front of Heathcliff, Wu Yan seems to have seen through Heathcliff's thoughts. Others might not know Heathcliff's true identity, but he did. It's not hard to guess Heathcliff's thoughts. Of course, Wu Yan didn't know that Heathcliff was trying to figure out his own origin and life. If he did, he would have laughed out loud and hid the infinite arms refinement so that Heathcliff could fill in the blanks with his own imagination. Wu Yan shrugged and said with a smile, "You don't look scared at all, Commander." Heathcliff calmed himself down and suppressed the various guesses in his heart. He blurted out, "You don't understand, the thing that I'm really afraid of." Heathcliff straightened his back, leaned back on his chair, and said to Wu Yan, "Even so, I still want to invite you to join the Knights of the Blood. Whether I'm scared or I know you won't join, I don't want to miss out on a super strong fighter like you." So, Wu Yan, Kuan, think about it. Heathcliff didn't invite Wu Yan to increase the strength of the Knights of the Blood. For him, the Knights of the Blood is just a way to observe the movements of the players. Once he reaches the 100th floor, he will become the boss of the 100th floor and wipe out all the players he personally recruited. The real reason he invited Wu Yan is to keep an eye on Wu Yan's movements. After all, the person in front of him might be his biggest enemy. Wu Yan thought for a bit before he shrugged with a helpless look on his face. "I'm sorry, but to be honest, I don't think joining the Knights of the Blood will help me in any way. So, I don't want to join the Knights of the Blood." Asuna opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, she didn't say anything. She lowered her head and seemed to be thinking about something. Heathcliff seemed to understand that Asuna wouldn't consider joining his guild. His expression was a little helpless. However, Wu Yan's words were straightforward and realistic. The Knights of the Blood won't be able to bring any benefits to Wu Yan. He doesn't need power, he doesn't lack money, he can get his own equipment and weapons, and he's not weaker than anyone else. Is he weaker than any other guild? Heathcliff closed his eyes. He crossed his fingers and rested them under his chin. It was obvious that he was thinking about something. How about this? Heathcliff opened his eyes and he glared at Wu Yan with a provocative look he never had before. "Let's duel. If I win, you'll join the Knights of the Blood." "What?" Asuna was shocked and stepped forward. "Leader," Heathcliff raised his hand and interrupted Asuna. He stared at Wu Yan's back and he started laughing. "What do you think?" Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and stared at Heathcliff. Looking at the founder of Sao, Wu Yan closed his eyes and opened them again. "What if I win?" "One condition." Heathcliff stood up and said with his hands behind his back. "Until Sao is fully cleared, the Knights of the Blood will do everything they can to help you fulfill one of your conditions." "That's a real deal." Wu Yan raised his head and laughed. "Fine. I agree. Leader." Wu Yan, Kuan. Asuna didn't know what to do. She just stood there and looked around nervously. Heathcliff nodded. A duel is a good plan. Only by facing Wu Yan in person can he figure out what's going on. If he wins, he can also achieve his goal. Why not? As for Wu Yan's combat power, Heathcliff didn't care about it at all. It would be ridiculous if he couldn't even defeat a player with the administrator's permission. Heathcliff was only afraid of Wu Yan's experience in the real world. There's nothing he's afraid of in this game world. What Heathcliff didn't know was that Wu Yan already knew his identity. Since Wu Yan knew Heathcliff's identity and that he has the administrator's permission, he agreed to Heathcliff's request because he's confident that he can beat him. Of course, in the game world, Wu Yan can't say he can win against the GM. However, he has a way to force Heathcliff to a draw or even force Heathcliff to surrender. Wu Yan didn't care about Heathcliff's condition at all. He just wants to see how far the creator of Sao can go against him with the administrator's permission. At the same time, he also wants to know more about Heathcliff. With his perfect memory ability, he can figure out Heathcliff's fighting style after fighting him. When he reaches the 100th floor, he'll have a better chance of beating Heathcliff. Players are not monsters. Aside from learning new skills, there is no way to change the way they fight, unless they completely change themselves. This is also an opportunity for him. Chapter 648. Aincrad's 55th floor, Granzam, Knights of the Blood's HQ. At the entrance, two figures walked out of the castle. However, their expressions and actions were completely different. One of them had a face full of anger and walked aggressively. That look was enough to scare away some timid people. The other one had a face full of helplessness as he followed behind the former and passed through the castle one after another. Wu Yan sighed helplessly. Asuna didn't even look at him as she continued walking. Her footsteps were so heavy that the sound of her footsteps could be heard as she stomped on the ground. Wu Yan sighed helplessly. I say, what are you angry about? Asuna stopped and turned around to look at Wu Yan. Her face was filled with anger. Her footsteps became heavier as she approached Wu Yan. Wu Yan was startled and quickly retreated. However, Asuna didn't give up and forced Wu Yan to take a few steps back. Idiot! 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 Asuna's voice was filled with anger as she approached Wu Yan. Do you know who our leader is? Do you think he only has the ability to lead? To be able to become the leader of the strongest guild, Knights of the Blood Oath, do you think that without any fighting ability, he would be able to sit there forever? Well. Wu Yan raised his hands and made a surrender gesture. Isn't that great? The stronger the opponent, the more interesting it is, right? Ha! Are you an idiot? Asuna gritted her teeth and said angrily. Leader's strength isn't normal. Not only does he have the unique skill, Sacred Sword, but he also has both offense and defense. There are no flaws, and his HP has never dropped below the yellow color. His strength has completely exceeded the game's balance. He's not even in the same dimension. I've heard a lot about Heathcliff's unique skill, Sacred Sword. Wu Yan pressed Asuna's shoulder and pushed her back a little. His strength is not something normal players can compare to. He can even solo some of the stronger bosses, but do you think my strength is the same as other players? Asuna was stunned. She suddenly remembered that the person in front of her is the strongest player in SAO. He's the Fey swordsman who cleared nearly 20 floors of Aincrad all by himself. Asuna's expression became a lot better, but she was still worried about her leader's duel with Wu Yan. She didn't know what was going to happen. Maybe her leader can defeat Wu Yan and break Wu Yan's unbeatable record. Or maybe Wu Yan can defeat her leader and break his record of never dropping below yellow HP. No matter which side wins, it's a great honor. At the same time, no matter which side loses, the impact on SAO will be huge. What will happen in the end? Wu Yan rolled his eyes when he saw Asuna's mixed expression. Don't think too much about it. There are still 3 days until the duel, don't worry about it. Be careful, you might lose all your hair. You won't lose your hair in SAO, it will grow back even if you cut it. Asuna muttered softly. If you don't change your appearance in real life, you won't change your appearance in SAO, yes, yes, yes. Wu Yan walked past Asuna and walked out of the room. That's why you didn't get fat, it's good news for you, what did you say? Asuna turned around and ran behind Wu Yan. I'm not a foodie. Then who was the one who ate 2 burger steaks? Even I only ate 1, you little foodie. I was just hungry, you don't have to eat that much even if you're hungry. Are you going to say you were hungry for 2 to 3 months? That's right. That's right. I was starved for 2 to 3 months. Is that so? Wu Yan stopped abruptly. Asuna couldn't react in time and she rammed into his back. Wu Yan turned around and he smiled at Asuna. He reminded her. If I'm not mistaken, SAO was only a month old at the time. Asuna froze on the spot. Milady, did you not only starve for a month in SAO, but also in the real world? Wu Yan looked at Asuna with a strange expression. It was as if he was looking at a god who just escaped from a refugee camp. What a sad life you must have to starve for a month and still be able to survive. Wu Yan teased. You bastard. Asuna closed her eyes and clenched her fist. She slowly raised her hand and her face turned red. Asuna didn't know if it was because of anger or embarrassment. He glanced at Asuna who was scratching her head like a monkey because of him. Wu Yan quickly stopped himself from teasing her. He didn't want her to get angry out of humiliation. Who knows if she'll draw her sword on him or something. At that moment, Speechless changed the topic. Well, it must be because I'm too good at cooking that Miss Asuna lost her composure. Asuna bit her lips and shouted. Don't be too proud. That's because SAO was still in its early stages, and the skills of a chef weren't developed yet. Now, my cooking skills are definitely better than yours. Oh. This time, Wu Yan's interest was piqued. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked down at Asuna. My cooking skills were already good a year ago. Now, my proficiency is almost maxed out. I've almost learned all the skills. How can you be so confident? What's so great about you? What's so great about that? Asuna raised her head proudly. My cooking proficiency is almost maxed out too. Wu Yan flinched and he was surprised. That fast? Of course. Asuna showed a beautiful smile. She straightened her back and put her head in front of Wu Yan. That's why I won't be worse than you. That might not be the case. Wu Yan poked at her with his finger as if he was teaching her a lesson. The proficiency of the cooking skill is only related to the ingredients that can be processed. Real cooking still requires one's own understanding and the matching of ingredients. The choice of sauces, seasonings, and other ingredients is also very important. Your cooking skill proficiency can catch up to mine, but it doesn't mean that your cooking skill can catch up to mine. Huh? Are you saying my cooking is bad? Asuna's temper flared. Of course your cooking is good. Wu Yan grinned and continued in an infuriating tone. With my recipes, you can become a master even if you're a noob. Wait, I can't pretend I didn't hear that. Asuna said loudly, your recipe is just an introduction for me. Most of the dishes I make are my own, they're not in your recipe. Introductory? Wu Yan's face twitched. The cookbook was made within a month of SAO's launch. Back then, his cooking skills in the game weren't that high, so the level of his cooking skills wasn't that high. Compared to his cooking skills in the real world, the difference is like heaven and earth. Nevertheless, it's still better than the average chef's cooking skills. But Asuna said it's as good as a beginner's guide. That's intolerable. Since you're going to put it that way. Wu Yan inhaled deeply and he continued. Asuna looked at him with a shocked expression. Let's duel. No. No way. Asuna couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Her face showed a little panic. It's just cooking, that's right. It's cooking. Wu Yan clenched his fist. Let's duel with cooking. Cooking duel? Asuna froze for a second, then her interest was piqued. She put her hands on her waist. You'll regret this. You'll kneel under my table. Thus, a different kind of duel unfolded just like that. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile users, please go here. Wonderful brush pavilion, no pop-up window, quick update, remember. Chapter 649. Aincrad, 22nd floor. In the southwest region, there was a forest, a very beautiful forest. The trees are arranged in rows with a small path as the center. The trees are arranged neatly in all directions. Even though it's a forest, there's a sense of rhythm to it. It's as if someone is treating this place like a chess game and the trees are the chess pieces. They're arranged in a beautiful pattern. It's like the crystallization of art. It's breathtaking. In addition to the forest, there were also hills, lakes, and villages. They complemented each other, forming a very beautiful picture. If someone who knew how to appreciate it came here, then he would realize that this place could no longer be called an area, but a piece of art, a paradise, an ideal that could never be reproduced in the real world. With the forest, hills, and lakes as companions, the people who live here will feel peace and happiness from the bottom of their heart. One has to admit that this kind of scenery can only be found in a game world like SAO. In the original work, Kirito also fell in love with this place during the later stages of SAO. He brought his loved one here for a vacation. From this, one could tell how beautiful this place was. Now, this place is Wu Yan's residence. Wu Yan is a lone wolf. He's always been that way. Other than going out on missions with a few acquaintances from the moonlit black cats, Wu Yan has always been alone. He's never even formed a team. After he became famous, he became even more popular. Famous people were annoyed by noise the most. The same goes for Wu Yan. If he were to live in a town, then with his fame, even if he were to go out at night, he would still be found out sooner or later. If that's the case, then trouble would follow. So, this tranquil and beautiful place became Wu Yan's best choice for a place to stay. After clearing the 21st floor, Wu Yan continued. Wu Yan spent a lot of effort to find this place. He spent a lot of money to get this place to stay with him for a year. Although he's been living alone in this place for a year, Wu Yan didn't feel bored or lonely because of the beautiful environment. Instead, he fell in love with this quiet, peaceful, and beautiful place. Wu Yan made up his mind that this place will be his residence until the end of his time in Sao. There won't be any changes. Today, he finally has his first guest in this place. Wu Yan is already familiar with the surroundings, so he didn't feel anything special. However, Asuna, who came here for the first time, couldn't hide her excitement. She looked around at the beautiful surroundings and she lost herself in the beauty of the place. Wu Yan glanced at Asuna, who couldn't take her eyes off the surroundings. He smiled. When he first came here, he wasn't any better than Asuna. After all, this place is too beautiful. Wu Yan has been to many worlds, but none of them can compare to this place. Maybe Fantasy Village can compare to this place, but Wu Yan hasn't been there yet. Since Asuna doesn't have her own place yet, she's still living in the Knights of the Blood's HQ. Therefore, the cooking duel between the two was held in Wu Yan's house. Originally, Wu Yan didn't want to bring Asuna here. In the original work, this is the place where Asuna and Kirito stayed as newlyweds. Now that he's bringing Asuna here, Wu Yan had a strange feeling. Subconsciously, he didn't want to bring Asuna here, but they can't go to the Knights of the Blood's HQ for a cooking duel. In the end, Wu Yan had no choice but to accept his fate. Unlike Wu Yan, Asuna is curious about Wu Yan's residence. This is Sao's most mysterious and most powerful player's residence. No one has been able to find it in the past year. It's only natural for Asuna to be curious about this place. She didn't expect this place to be so beautiful. She was instantly captivated by the environment. The path in the forest was made of wooden planks. The two walked along this wooden path for quite some time. After 15 minutes, the end of the path appeared in their field of vision. In addition, there was a wooden villa located at the end of the path. That's Wu Yan's house. Looking at the wooden mansion getting closer and closer, Wu Yan chuckled and said to Asuna, "I'm honored to have you as the first guest here." First guest? Asuna reluctantly withdrew her gaze from her surroundings and looked at the mansion in front of her with a surprised expression. "You've never brought anyone here before?" I've never." Wu Yan said. "This is the only place where I feel safe. If the news that I live here spreads out, this place will never be peaceful. I don't want to disturb this peaceful place." Asuna nodded in agreement. If she was in Asuna's shoes, she would have the same idea. She wouldn't want to disturb the peace and tranquility of this place. They walked along the path until they reached the end of the path. After passing through a small staircase in front of the mansion, the two arrived at the entrance. Wu Yan walked to the entrance before Asuna. He pushed the door open and gestured for Asuna to enter. "Welcome to my house. I am sorry to disturb you." Asuna was a little nervous. It seems like this is the first time she entered someone's house. She looked around for a while before entering. The living room of the mansion isn't very big. It's only a little bigger than a normal family's living room. However, it has everything you need. There's a sofa, a table, a potted plant, and some small furniture. It's very homey. In the innermost corner of the mansion, there's a complete kitchen. It's obvious that the owner put a lot of effort into this place. There were several windows that were about the height of a person. Warm sunlight shone into the hall from outside the windows. A gentle breeze blew the curtains. Although the layout was simple, it was unexpectedly warm. It made people who saw this scene unconsciously feel warmth flowing through their hearts. It was very moving. Asuna clasped her hands together and raised them in front of her chest. She's enchanted by this place. There's no doubt that she's obsessed with this place. She looked around the living room and stopped at the window. Even from here, Asuna can see the beautiful lake, the rolling mountains, and the blue sky. In the distance, the labyrinth leading to the next floor looked like a giant pillar reaching into the sky. Together with the lake, the mountains, and the blue sky, Asuna felt for the first time that the tower was just as beautiful as the one she was looking at. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. Asuna couldn't help but exclaim. When she regained her senses, she was already standing by the window, admiring the heavenly scenery. She felt like she wouldn't be able to leave if she stayed here any longer. What do you think? Not bad? Wu Yan changed into a collared short-sleeved shirt and a pair of casual pants. He sat on the sofa and smiled at Asuna. He's very pleased with her current expression. In the beginning, Wu Yan put in a lot of effort to decorate this place. Not only did he spend a lot of money, he also gave up 3 days of leveling time. Even though he never brought anyone here before, Wu Yan felt refreshed when he saw someone who knew how to appreciate this place. For the first time, Asuna didn't disagree with Wu Yan. She nodded her head repeatedly. She didn't seem to have any awareness that a war was about to begin. She also didn't have any intention of fighting against her enemy. She was so immersed in this environment that Wu Yan couldn't help but laugh. Sure enough, girls are emotional creatures. A beautiful environment can conquer their hearts. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.